Hello, donkeys. It is Monday, February 4th, 2019, and Caesar is home. Welcome. My name is Luke Thomas, and this is the MMA Hour right here on MMAfighting.com. You might notice the new music. We're still working it out. It's not finished yet, but yes, we are making some pivots here on the show. But some things remain the same, including a stellar guest list and a lineup. We've got today, Shorty Torres will be here. I believe he has a bit of an announcement. We have Wonder Boy. He's going to be here. We've got, Trevor Wittman's going to be here, and Ricardo Almeida is going to be here as well. Plus, you're going to be here two ways, as you always are, with your tweets using the hashtag #TheMMAHour, plus with your calls when we get to the sound off. As always, that number 844-866-2468. I have been off a week. I apologize for that. It is because I had some other professional responsibilities to attend to. They were very weird, but I'm back. We had UFC Fortaleza over the weekend and a whole lot more. A couple of announcements. In addition to hearing that music there, as again, it's not quite finished. We got some things we'll start working out, so appreciate your patience while we have a metaphorical under construction sign going on. Number two, I have great news. Some of you folks who listen on the audio podcast have noted that the Monday Morning Analyst doesn't really work for you. Good news. We're going to make the Monday Morning Analyst for the podcast portion a YouTube exclusive. So we're going to make sure that when we go to the audio side of things, it's going to be the kind of content that more naturally caters to that format. So we heard you guys. We wanted to honor some of your requests. They're very fair. They all make sense. So spread the word. The Monday Morning Analyst, it'll be a part of today and, of course, on YouTube for the MMA Fighting site, but it'll be a YouTube exclusive. Yes? Okay. That'd be great. With that being said, not a moment to waste. UFC Fortaleza, however you pronounce it, which I'm sure I'm not doing that correctly, was on Saturday, UFC on ESPN+. It is time now for the web exclusive Monday Morning Analyst. Wow, I didn't know they changed that up. That's interesting. You learn something new every day, huh? There you go. All right, let's get into it. Over the weekend, UFC Fortaleza. How do you pronounce that word? I don't know. What I do know is the event was incredible. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a little bit of an issue with my UFC on my ESPN app on I have a TV, a Samsung TV, and my app didn't have the audio and the video synced right, so I had to kind of reload the page, but after that, it was great. I can't complain about that. Can I just say one thing before we get to the technique breakdown? Sweet mother of Jesus Christ, thank you, ESPN, for the pacing on that show. Number one, starting at 8 o'clock was just kisses fingers, so delicioso. Number two, oh my God, the pacing was this is how, I didn't realize psychically the toll it had taken on me to have cards start at 10 and then go till 1 or more in the morning. It really was like hurting my fandom. To get that back, I cannot tell you how happy I am. And I know that's not going to be the norm necessarily, but for when it needs to be that way or when it can be that way, to be that way, it has restored my faith in humanity. Not really, but I'm just going to say that. All right. So what do we have from UFC Fortaleza? Time permitting, I'll get to 3 fights, but probably just 2. I don't have any numbers because I didn't see any real numbers. Not every time numbers tell you the story. They're often very helpful, but not always. Nor do I have any other slides about breaking down one fight. We were just doing one fight or 1.5 fight, where we just look at a big main event and then something small. I'll put up some slides, but I kind of want to go through a bunch of different things. So let's put up the slides now, if we can. So we're going to talk about at least Marlon Moraes versus Raphael Assuncao, and at least Jose Aldo and Renato Moicano. Time permitting, a lot of folks were asking, how is it possible that Demian Maia keeps taking people's back? I'll show the back take, time permitting, on this one. So let's get things going. All right, this was your main event. This was Marlon Moraes. As you see on the right, you had Junior, I keep calling him Junior, that's his brother, Raphael Assuncao on the left. So I went back and I watched the first fight, and I noticed something, a couple of things that were different this time around. Number one, Marlon Moraes did not switch stances that often. Marlon Moraes will do things called darts, where he'll shoot off at an angle. He would fake a southpaw position and then kind of paw with then his right hand, which would be his lead hand. but he didn't really do a lot of stance switching in this one. In his first fight, he was spending lots of time, including in that first round, which he probably lost by a series of right hands at the end of it. He was spending a lot of time in southpaw position. He was spending a lot of time going back and forth. He did not do that this time, number one. Number two, he just had a certain energy. You could tell when he fought Assuncao the first time, which I believe was his UFC debut, he might have been a little bit hesitant, a little bit thinking about things. He was throwing, he was definitely moving, but he was just a little bit, the numbers don't show it, but the body language does, where he's just a little bit reserved. He was much more open this time around. Careful, deliberate, but open. He was just kind of throwing, and you could tell he was getting rid of, by not doing the stance switching, he was getting rid of some of the things that were either viewed by him and his coach as extraneous or just otherwise not helpful. They had a dedicated game plan. Also, if you go back and you watch Assuncao the first time, then commentator Brian Stan had noted Assuncao was also a stance switcher, but didn't switch stances in that fight. He carried that over into this one. He stayed predominantly in his orthodox position, except for the very end where he gets caught, which is kind of interesting to note about that. So that's another key component there to watch. This one, how did he do it? The basic answer is when we talk about the best athletes in the UFC, what do we say? We say maybe Yoel Romero, maybe Paulo Costa, maybe, I don't know, who are just some really other good athletes, another Brazilian, Jose Aldo, certainly in his prime, or pick your fighter. There's some other really good, Sarah McMahon was a really good athlete, obviously, for her time, Ronda Rousey, John Jones, guys who are just super athletic, right, or ladies who are super athletic. I don't know why, but we don't really talk about Marlon Moraes in that way. I am calling upon everybody to fix that. We must start. His hand speed is blistering. His power is extraordinary. I don't know if he's the best athlete in the UFC, but when we have a conversation about some of the more athletic guys, I'm not saying that's why he wins. He wins because he's also a phenomenal technician, which we saw in this. He has brilliant finishing instincts, which we saw in this. But we never bring up Marlon Moraes like near the top of a list of best athletes in MMA. This fight shows you just how good that is. He marries that with phenomenal technique, which just makes him such a potent force. I mean, this fight went the distance the first time, and then Assuncao won, and the second time, it wasn't even close. He just bulldozed and went right through him. And it's because he has incredible athleticism that he marries with phenomenal technique that he has honed over time in all dimensions of the game, plus great decision making. But I just want to make a point. When you're watching him, the slides won't necessarily show this to the fullest extent as live video would, but his hand speed is phenomenal, and his overall ability to just bring his athleticism to bear in a smart way, it really needs to be considered going forward. I really believe that. So that was a key component. But the real answer to how he did this was two things. One, he tricked Assuncao to thinking he was delivering either a shot to the body or a shot straight. I'll demonstrate that with his cross. And then on the ground, he had a brilliant way to finish the guillotine. He also had an incredibly novel way of trying to defend it that I've literally never seen. We'll talk about that in just a second. I don't know how close he was to stopping it. I've never seen a guy get stuck in mounted guillotine and put both of his hands on the inside on purpose. We'll look at that here in just a second. So let's go through this. What you're looking for here is, he kind of feints this way, and you see the reaction. See this reaction? Let me put this up right here. Right here. This is what you're looking for. Right hand up, left hand extended. That's what he's looking for. At first, what you're going to see is Moraes is going to throw a shot straight down the middle, and Assuncao is not going to be there. He gets tricked later, and instead of coming down the middle, he comes over the top with a right hand and crushes him. But he's setting it all up here. And it looks like this the first time. This is what it looks like the first time. This is the exact same scenario that ended the fight. This time, though, look, he is inside. He is inside the arm, the punching arm of Assuncao. Next time, he's going to come around the side. He sets it up a variety of different ways. That's one time. Here's another time he sets it up. He fakes to the body a little bit, right? Just getting him to gauge his reactions, but look how far apart they are. Here's another time. Ready? Watch. He's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to fake a jab, lower his level, and you're going to see what kind of reaction he gets from Assuncao. Assuncao throws a nice tight hook in the inside, anticipating he was coming in, but he's sort of showing different setups. So one time I'm going to come straight to the body, next time jab, and then I'm going to lower my level to the body, right? He's setting up all these different ways in which that kind of look could come at him, so that when he finally decides to go with that overhand right over the top, he's never seen it, he's confused. He does this, and it comes on that left-hand side. You'll see it here in just a second, right? So he's setting it all up. Here's the next one. By the way, he did such a good job. Last time his footwork was good, but his directionality in the first fight was a little bit one note. Man, this time he's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He takes a lot from Frankie Edgar as a teammate, not as a thief, as a teammate. He takes some of the best parts, he makes it his own. But one of the things he does is just has really excellent footwork, a lot of L-stepping to the outside and resetting the angle. He's just so good at that, right? So here we go. Again, fakes, look at this, lowers level, fakes jab, and there's the exact same reaction. This is the exact same reaction you're going to see in that final sequence. So he's drawing it out, setting it up, right? And he's doing it by going inside, one time to the chin, one time to the body. It's sort of making it all look the same. You can't tell where that punch is coming. It kind of looks like it's all being set up the same way, right? There it is right there. And here's the final sequence. Look at this nice tight punch. He misses here. I love this. And I love how he just has this, the uppercuts from the lead hand. You don't see a lot of them in MMA. You see a lot of these rear hand, wind them up Yosemite Sam things. But he's got a nice, I love his super crisp, tight boxing. I know he missed with this punch, but man, you just give him another round or two and he's going to lay you out. But anyway, and then he finishes up with a left hook. So he is now in his southpaw stance, right? Right here. Let me go back. Excuse me, what am I saying? He's in his right-handed stance. What am I saying? He's in his right-hand stance. He misses with the uppercut and goes back. So now he's back to that stance. Now here's where I couldn't tell. This was one of those fights where it's true of almost any fight. You got to get just the right angle from the video camera to really understand it. This one in particular, you really had to. I had to go back and watch this one a few times. I was like, how exactly did he do it? Because this was the shot live. This was the live shot. Look at him take this he almost takes a hop. Look at his feet. Ready? One thing is Assuncao is usually really good at distance management here. He's a little flat-footed here. He didn't anticipate this at all. And then all the different setups that Marlon Moraes had been doing, you see he fakes this way, and then this time, boom, comes over the top, crushes him, and then follows it up with another one, okay? But here's how he set it up. Let's go to the different angle. This is the angle. You're looking for what? Watch. The exact same one. He thinks the punch is coming on the inside, not merely below him, but on the inside of the bicep. Instead, it's coming over the top. You see that? That's how it changed. He wasn't ready for it. It's like, dude, how do you land a punch clean on Raphael Assuncao? It's very, very difficult to land a punch on him unless you're both just trading in the pocket. And even then, people don't just land clean shots on him anymore. You can only do it if he's anticipating something totally different and he's got vulnerabilities. But that's what happened. He's just got such nimble, fast feet, nimble, fast hands, good feints, good fakes, good setups, good trickery, good variation, good shot selection. So by the time he gets here, it's too late already, man. This guy is a handful. TJ Dillashaw's like, wow, 125 back to Henry Cejudo or Marlon Moraes. Bro, I'm not saying he can't beat either of those guys, particularly if they do the rematch with Cejudo at 135. But do I think he has his hands full? I know he has his hands full. This is an amazing fighter right here. Right? Boom. Crushes him and then follows it up. This time he measures him. You can see he measures him right here like that and then crushes him one more time. So now we're not going to go through some of the guard passing he went through. There's no point. He falls down and gets on top. This is the interesting part. I've never seen this before. note to anybody watching this who knows more than me, and as I always tell you folks, I don't present these findings as the authoritative findings, the best findings, or the only findings. I present to you them as my findings that I can put together based on what I know, but I have limits like anybody else, of course. If somebody knows the answer to this, please shoot me an email, luke.thomas@sbnation.com. I'd really love to know what he's doing here. I'll probably ask Almeida when we get here, because I'd never seen this before. I've seen a lot of mount defense with guillotines, arm in, arm out. I'd never seen this. Anyway, right, the old Gordon Ryan choice. If they go to defend their hands, you take the back. If they put their hands on the mat, from the front headlock, you go for the guillotine. Hands on the mat, he goes for the guillotine, right? So here he is, and he is going to have the arm in. You can already tell this is a beautiful arm in. Why? He's got his head on the side of the ribs, which is where you want it. He's got, a lot of people make the mistake of, the choking arm, they go too far with it. You want to get just right. He's got it just right. Shoulders are not quite square, but square-ish. And he's going to fall to that side. He's going to pull him on top of himself like this. Pay attention to something. Again, we're going to go through this. Look here. Both of Assuncao's hands at this point in the fight at 153 are on the mat, okay? Understand that. And look where they end up. He rolls, and now Marlon comes on top. The hand here, it's still free. He's going to tuck it like that. Now, Marlon comes on top of it because he's trying to take him out. You'll see it from a different angle. He can take this hand out. In fact, to tap, he just pulls it out and taps. It's not stuck in there. It's not a BJ Penn rear naked choke where he's using one of his legs to hold an arm back, so you're just out here floating around with one arm. That's not what this is. He is choosing to put that arm in there. Here's what I think is happening. Let's go through this real quickly. This is Assuncao's hand right here, okay? Here's what I think is happening. He's grabbing his own leg here. I have looked at this a number of times. It looks like he's grabbing the leg of Moraes for a second, but then I see him from the bird's eye view grabbing his own. Maybe he's grabbing that one and trying to get free, but you got to notice the choke is on that side. He's got to come this way to get out of it, right? If someone's doing a guillotine on you, whatever side the head is on, you go cross body to get out of it. He would have to circle out this way. He'd have to be on the right side because the head's on the other side. The head is against the left side of the ribs, but he's stopped there. So removing that leg, he wouldn't twist in. There's no way Assuncao would twist this way because that would just tighten the choke. He'd have to go, he'd have to go this way to get out of it. So grabbing the bottom leg of Assuncao wouldn't do him any good. Here's what I think he's doing, and I want to be very clear about this. I do not know. I only think. I've never seen this before. But a lot of times, somebody will get caught in a head and arm triangle, and what they'll do is, so they'll be like, let's say the person is choking here and they're on this side of the body. What they'll do is they'll take their free hand and then the arm that's being compromised a little bit, and they'll actually tuck up under their leg and they'll pull it open. And what that does is, where you're here before being choked, if I grab behind my leg and then I extend my leg out, it kind of opens up a little bit. That's not really going to work on anybody good. But if somebody is not necessarily in that right position or not that good, but maybe they're real strong and they're trying to He-Man it, that could buy you some time. So it can work in certain situations. My hunch here is that he could be grabbing the leg. I don't know. My hunch is that what he was trying to do is, what you're going to see eventually happen. Let me show you here. Look at his spine right here, right? His spine is all this way. Eventually what's going to happen is he's going to shoot his hips down and everything's going to come up. And when it does, that's when the choke really begins to sink. But to do that, he's got to squeeze his buns together and he's got to drive, like you're finishing a deadlift. You got to drive down, okay? My thought was what he was trying to do was something similar, where if I get a hold of my leg and I pull, or I at least put a wedge here, it's going to be hard to fully drive the hips in. Or if I can hold on to a leg, then I can push the guillotine out a little bit. Because remember, it's an arm-in guillotine. So that is my theory. I do not know. If you know, please shoot me an email, luke.thomas@sbnation.com. I'd love to know what the answer is to that, because I've never seen that before. In any event, it doesn't really matter. Now, this is a no-no. Moraes has his toes in the fence, but he lets them go because, and look, you can see the hand there. There's the hand of Assuncao. He's holding his own leg, right? So, there's the other arm. This is the look, this is the arm of Assuncao. Both of these are around. To get out of this choke, from a physical positioning standpoint, his hips would have to be on this side, but he's stuck on the other one. By the way, this is such a nice choke. Look at Moraes balancing on his head, looking down, right? The head is nice against the lat, against the ribs. It's just perfect. And here's how he's going to finish it, right? So watch. He is going to look at it, watch the back, and then watch the head of Moraes here. He's going to lean up. First of all, I want to pay attention to something here. Look at the traps on old Moraes. Dude is, you guys can't see that, right? Let me make these red so you can see. Bro, look at that. Dude's got stop signs on his back. It's just like super, super bricked up, okay? And he leans back like this, and he's leaning to the same side the choke is on. Remember, part of an arm in, there's many different ways to finish this, but typically you don't want to go too far because once you get the lockup, you're rocking the baby a little bit. That's what some people call it. That's the way I was taught it anyway. So that's what you're going to get here. He's going to rock that inside. And so what he's doing is, and by the way, you see the other hand come out here. Look at that. He frees the hand, no problem. It's not stuck. He chose to put it inside. It's very, very unique. And then he taps. Here's another look at it. I want to pay attention to something, right? Again, hands go on the mat from the front headlock position. Boom. Again, they put their hands on your hands, take the back of the hands on the mat. You go for the choke from the front headlock. Anywhere he decides to go for the choke. Sits his hips in deep. Look, pay attention to the hands of Assuncao. They're nice and open, right? He's gonna drive in. Can't get it standing. He's gonna pull him on top. Okay, he's got a nice, almost like not quite a Marcelo team. I wouldn't call it that. Now you can see Assuncao wants to get out of it. He wants to slide, and this hook here. Whoop. Do this. This here is preventing it from happening. So he keeps going. You see that hook? And that brings him on top. And then Assuncao chooses to put his hands inside. Like that. Look at this. Both of his hands are right here. I do not know what that is. I have never seen that before. Forgive me my ignorance. You learn something new every day. I don't know. Again, unless it's providing a wedge or he's gripping something to open it up, but we never get to that point. One last detail here on the finish as he comes around. By the way, to roll through this and finish is so very difficult. It's hard to explain, but he gets it nicely, pushes out, drives his hips. So you see how there's a wedge here? Look at this. See how there's a wedge? He can't quite get, his hips are not touching his belly or his ribs. That would really be the ideal scenario. So there's a wedge there. That's what I think it might be, is that you just can't get enough compression. But he pulls it out, and then watch the head of Moraes come and sit up here. All right? He wraps underneath. This is the last thing I want to show you. Look at this. Why does he grapevine the legs like that? Because it pushes Assuncao together. Look at that. At first, his legs are out. See, look. His legs are kind of out behind him. But then, not only is he coming down with the pressure and leaning up, he's going to bring his legs inside, higher up, and he's going to, look at that, just sandwich him together. See that? And then he just takes the arm out, and he gets the tap. That is so nice. That is so nice from Marlon Moraes. So this is what I mean. Clever, smart, another version of his athleticism. Strong, but he's not He-Manning stuff. He's taking appropriate technique and then applying his physicality to it. He uses his strength. He uses his speed. He's not reliant upon it to win. Big, big difference. That's going to save him when his athleticism starts to decline a little bit. He's not going to have a precipitous drop-off at the end of his career. He probably will have a gradual one if he doesn't take too much punishment because he employs those tools. He doesn't lean on them. Big, big difference. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Thumbnail up, please. If you don't mind. All right. There you have it. Okay. This one, Yeah, let's get to it real quickly. All right, let's go to Jose Aldo here real fast. Jose Aldo, how did he win? He bombed on Renato Moicano, but there was a couple ways he set it up. We talked about it last week. A lot of times combinations go side to side to side to side. Sometimes they can stay same side. He goes same side on this one, and it works. But he has to slowly set it up. He slowly sets it up by going to the head. He slowly sets it up by going to the right. He slowly sets it up by going to the head and then to the body. He slowly sets it up, by the way, two different hands. Eventually what he does is he goes left to the body, left over the top, so he stays with it. 2 fights in a row, Jose Aldo has won by stoppage. He has not done that since 2009, number one. Number two, in both of those fights, it was a left hook to the liver that set everything up. Somewhere Bas Rutten is smiling and just delighting in this fact that you've got, literally, you want to talk about a 10-year challenge? It's been 10 years since he's done that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. He's not quite the athlete he was back then, but he's still pretty good. He's adding some new tools. That left to the ribs, boy, he is setting people on fire with this thing. So how does he begin to set it all up? This is how, right? So we're going to go through it. Here he's faking and feinting, right? He's just sort of going to wildly come in and see if he can get it. Nowhere close, right? Nowhere close. Walking through, Moicano backs him up a little bit, and then he recharges here. You're going to see him go back in, collect himself, and he's going to single shot one more time here, like that. Actually, he doubles up here. I stand corrected. He goes jab, hook a little bit, and then gets stopped along the way. All right, so that's the first time. Here's another time a little bit later in the fight. What's he going to do? By the way, not a lot of footwork in this one. These two kind of stood in front of each other a little bit, right? What's he going to do? Leg kick was one component, and then boom, counteractive, sort of like a reaction check hook. Not a whole lot to it, but he's beginning to like set things up, right? I feel his way through the offense. I don't know that he intended to use that left hand from the word go to get there. Just like I don't know that Moraes intended to land that right in the way he did. But you try a lot of different things, you vary things up, you see what works, and then you act upon it. So here he is again, gets kicked in the face there a little bit from Moicano, but there's not a whole lot of steam on it. What's he going to do? He's going to look forward. He takes a shot here, he gets out of the way, and then he tries to go to the body as a reaction, and he gets hit with a check hook. A little bit too far away, a little bit too easy to read, right? So he's still making adjustments a little bit later. Boom. What does he do, right? He parries the kick a little bit, kind of goes with a right a little bit, boom, and then goes underneath. He's gauging the defense. How far is Moicano bringing his elbows down? That's what he's doing there. And how does he react? Does he go in a straight line, for example? Here's another one, right? Testing it out, leaning, pulls, sort of does a trunk turn there. I love this. By the way, in this fight, did you guys notice how many times Aldo checked kicks? Here's one, leans into it with his shin, and he did it several times, bringing it up as well. It was phenomenal, right? Boom. Catches him. Again, he has this sort of like check hook he throws at the end of combinations. Here he is again, kind of leading left to the body. Where does he go? He circles left. All right, we're going to make a mental note of that. Here's another one towards the end of the round. What's he doing? He doubles up on a pump fake and then comes with a left hook, and that brought down his defenses a little bit. And then he pulls and gets out of the way. Tells you if you can double up on things, he can get behind it pretty well on the same side, by the way. Now we're in round 2. This one does not last very long. I'm going to get this very quickly. Gets out of the way, leans in, gets out of the way twice while keeping his feet moving, jabs, goes to the body. So jab straight. Again, same side combinations, right? Here's another one. What's he going to do? He's going to jab. He's feeling his way in. Moicano's gauging distance. He goes right to the body. The single shots don't work. So what works? Same side, trickery. That's what works. So what does he do? This is the beginning of the end right here. Wow, I love this shot. Watch this. So Moicano, he threw one of these jumping knees in the first round because he was waiting for Aldo to step too far forward. You saw, I forget who did this last. Someone did it recently. But you can catch someone with a jump knee, or even Cerrone was catching Hernandez even with just a step-through knee, but you can catch them with a jump if they lean too far forward and extend over themselves. But he misses here because Aldo doesn't actually lean that far. He leans a little bit, but not too badly. It's not anywhere close. And he kind of throws a right, which misses. However, He throws that same check hook, and that lands, and now you're going to see him forced to reset, and I love this. Here it comes. Digs to the body, same side check hook again, and he follows it with a right. One more time, let's go through this real quickly, because I know we're short on time, like we always are. Right? Throws the right first. Moicano tries to greet him with a jump knee, but is nowhere close. Same check hook you saw him throw all last round. That lands. He's like, aha, kind of got my distance here a little bit, found a little way of an opening. Boom. He said in the post-fight interview he knew he was tall. They were going to go back to the body to test him because it's just hard to cover all that real estate when that happens. He gets him open, and look at this. Wide open lane. Immediately recognizes if you can throw that check hook a lot of times, right? If you can just react and find it in all these different scenarios. If you see an opening like that, what made Jose Aldo so special in his WEC run? I would argue what I used to call, I wrote a post on Bloody Elbow at the time about it. I called it reflexive decision making. That's what I called it. He has still reflexive decision making. He can make decisions about what to throw fast. And he's got that wonderful left hook that he's got. He opens things up with the ribs. The hand comes down. He immediately recognizes it and just goes to it. And then once he does, he just swarms. So there you go. That's your answer. Thumbnail, please. Very, very quickly. Very quickly. Let's go to this. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Folks are asking, how did Demian Maia take the back? I will show you. Let's put it up here very quickly. Demian Maia has a lot of tricks. And I went back and I watched how Colby stopped him, how Kamaru stopped him, how Woodley stopped him. Two tricks that all of them have. One, don't get along the fence. Woodley got along the fence because Woodley has like lights out takedown defense. But generally, Colby and Kamaru stayed in the center. So we try to make him take you down in open space. He's a lot less difficult. Number two, if you try to take you down open space, he's going to baseball slide underneath you to get it. He didn't need to do it in this fight, but it's another thing they do where, oh, I'll go for a double. I can't get it. Okay, I'll just baseball slide underneath, and I'll use my legs as sort of and I'll work, and I'll pull you on top from half or deep half. And then the other one is you got to break his hands apart. You'll see Tyron Woodley gets an underhook on one side and then literally wrist control on the other, and then gets his hips away and breaks away. Lyman Good does not do this. He's so close to the fence. So you can see he tries to turn so that he doesn't have his back up against the fence. That part is right. But he's not attacking the hands at all here. Right? And again, it's easier said than done. I mean, how many great fighters have had their back taken? Lyman Good knows more about this than I do, but I'm just observing what did the other guys do, what did he not do, right? So he never attacks the hands. Look at the hands here. So now he's got the leg between them. This is not the end of the world, but he's not firing enough underhooks. He's not got a whizzer on the right-hand side. Colby Covington was really good. You can hate Colby Covington all you want, but he had a nice whizzer on this side, and what he would do is he would force Maia with a whizzer. What's a whizzer? A whizzer is an overhook of an underhook. So it's an overhook of an underhook. And he would throw Maia so that Maia would plant his hands on the ground. But if your hands are on the ground, then he would just slip his leg out, underhook, and push. Right? So he doesn't do any of these things here. So he's turning him into the fence. And now look how close he is. Chest on top of hips. He's getting his hands together. No one's attacking the hands. He's just trying to right his balance. Another thing Woodley did would go get his hips side to side, constantly creating angles. He would never have a back flat against the fence. So he gets his hands together here, not quite underneath the rear end, but no one's attacking the hands. He just turns him facing us and then pushes him down. There's nothing. Look, what's holding Lyman Good up here? Nothing. He's driving his weight from his shoulder into his belly. He's pulling his rear end underneath him, and he's pushing forward. There's nothing to stop him. So he tries, thumbnail up, please. Right? He tries to get it going. He can't. Yada, yada, yada. Gets taken back down. You get the idea. I want to show something here real quick. Go back. Watch Maia like a snake go side to side here. Watch this. He's going to go side to side. Look at that. Side to side. Hold on. This is so nice. All right? God damn it. Thumbnail, please. I got it in the wrong spot. There we go. I know we got to go, so I'm going to make it fast. All right, watch this. Okay, put it up. Remember from the first fight, Henry Cejudo and DJ? DJ puts a foot in his hip, and then he picks him up and lifts him. You put a foot in the hip of Maia. What does he do? Gets rid of it. Goes to one side. Then he goes, watch this, as he turns, goes to the other side. It's a delicate hip switch. It's real delicate, right? And then goes, as you push, to the other side. Look at that. All right, last thing. I guess we got to go. I don't have time to get through all this, but I want to show you the last thing. Finally, you're going to see Lyman gets to his feet again, all right? But it doesn't do him a whole lot of good. So he gets to his feet. All right, put it up. Here is where Colby Covington keeps the whizzer, and he's already too far gone. But so what happens is he abandons it. So now what was Tyron Woodley doing? Breaking locked hands all the time. Now what does Maia have? Locked hands, bro. Now you are in trouble. Watch how he finishes this. Okay, what he's going to do is he's going to hook around. Now watch, he doesn't just hook the leg. Follow the hips of Maia. He moves around. You see that? Like he's dancing. Look at his rear end. I'm sure some of you would love that. Here we go. Dancing. Look at that footwork. He's going to kick the leg out and drive, and then he's going to push forward as he stabilizes. Why? Because it's going to force the hands of Good to touch the mat. Well, if they touch the mat, you have created a structure. What does he need to take the back? If he was standing, imagine he was like, I just want to take the back, no resistance. If you just stand like a scarecrow, that's one way. Now imagine we said you got to do it on the ground, but don't put your knees down. What would he have you do? He would have you build a stable structure. Feet down, hands down. Now he can just whip around it, just like that. And that is how he takes the back. He slowly finds a way to get to a position where he can slowly build on top, get to locked hands, manipulate your weight with his hips, get you to plant your hands. When your hands are planted, fire the hooks in. That is the Monday Morning Analyst right there. All right. I'm not even going to put my headphones on for this one. Ready, folks? It is time now for a round of tweets. Okay, let's get to it. There was my face, mouth breathing. Clock starts when the first tweet goes up. I went long on that one, didn't I? Yes, I did. About 2 minutes. Waiting on you donks. Here we go. There's the clock. And where are the tweets? All right, let's go. Clock's ticking. Point deductions for eye pokes. Go. I guess they're asking me, am I in favor of point deductions for eye pokes? Yes. Generally speaking, not in totality, but generally speaking, I am in favor of anything where the referees are more involved. There is this attitude in MMA where we want everyone to swallow the whistle. I don't believe that referees should swallow the whistle. I believe that they should get up there and be active. Oh, we don't want to disrupt the purity of a fight. There's no such thing. This is a phony idea. There's no such thing as a fight under perfect conditions, under real conditions, under these are more pure than the other one. They all just take place in the context in which they take place, whether it's in the street, a ring, an octagon, you name it. There's nothing more inherently real than the next one other than, I suppose, the danger that it might pose to you. But in the case of what we're talking about here for sports, yes, I'm in favor of it. Next. What do you guys think about the judging in Brazil? It looked like there was some home cooking going on. Just my opinion, would like to hear yours. Pulling up the results here very, very quickly. I didn't feel that way. Also, there were so many stoppages. I guess I didn't care. Let's see. Anybody who of note that lost? Max Griffin lost to Thiago Alves. I guess if you wanted to, you could say that. And then the Sarah Frota thing. I guess she's Brazilian too. I don't really remember, but Souza won. I mean, maybe. I think judges are always going to be. I need to know who the judges were for that one to really say. But do I think there's an egregious case? No, I don't think there's an egregious case. Next. Could any other country, excluding the USA, fill out a card like Brazilian fighters did? Canada and the UK. You could get just about any country to fill out a card. Could you do it with the depth that Brazil does? I think is what they mean. And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe Canada, you could do it. I'd have to see. But if you're asking, where are the powerhouses in terms of developing talent across weight classes? Brazil has got to be at the top of the list. Maybe USA is number one, but Brazil is right there, top three, bare minimum. They have so many fighters in heavyweight, right? Even though the rest of Spanish-speaking Latin America, they're not going to have heavyweights like Brazil does. It's just so special as a country. It's such a unicorn in the world, and for a country that doesn't have a background in wrestling to be as competitive as they are and as good as they are, it says a lot about the strength of that country and the kind of people that they produce. Next. Even though Dana keeps denying and saying no, do you believe that the UFC will introduce a 165-pound division and or other divisions as well? to me, the issue is not a matter of if, but when. They will create a 165-pound division. I just don't think it's imminent. They know that that is inevitable. They just don't want to do it yet. That's the only issue. But will they do it? There's no doubt in my mind. But it could be years before they do. It's just not something I think is going to happen in 2019 or 2020. But maybe by 2022, I think that is probably a different and better time horizon. Next. With Khabib waiting until the end of 2019 to fight again, should the UFC strip him? They could do an interim belt, but that didn't work well for the Ferguson the last time. Just another reason I think we would all benefit from a 165-pound division. No, they should not strip him. If he's going to fight again this year, I don't have an issue with it at all, especially for all the havoc that it causes when you put another title in there. And he also has been on ice with this issue with the commission, and I know some people were like, a $500,000 fine is totally justified. These are deranged people, truly. It's impossible to justify this in any event, so he's a little bit bitter about that. They got to find him the right opportunity. So if he sits out till 2020 for no other reason that he doesn't want to be there, that's different. But if he fights again in 2019, I'm okay with it. Next. Hot Ones. Who was your favorite person to quit on Hot Ones? You guys seen this show on YouTube? I love it. I talked about it in the last episode of the MMA Beat. You know what? I like DJ Khaled, but he was so annoying on that show. So, because he made it 3 wings in and was like, I've never taken an L. It's like, not even your blood pressure, DJ? I would say Ricky Gervais. Next, real quickly. So the Nevada Commission is contemplating regulating pre-fight trash talk. Outside of this, what is the most ludicrous policy you've heard any commission have ever come up with, whether successfully implemented or otherwise? Remember when they tried to ban Nick Diaz for life for marijuana infractions they couldn't even prove took place? Boy, that commission is truly amazing. People will justify anything that the powerful do, but that I found to be utterly disgraceful, and I'm not even sure. I agree with Dana White. I don't even know if that's legal, to be quite candid with you. All right, let's get to our guest. I believe he's there. Is he not on Skype? Oh, we're working on him. I believe we'll have Mr. Shorty Torres next. I believe he has some news to share, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll talk to him in just a sec. Yeah, that whole commission thing, I just couldn't believe people were like, yeah, it makes kind of sense to fine him $500,000. It's only a quarter of his purse. Dude, these are the kinds of people who can be tricked into anything. If they had taken $1 million, they would have justified that as well. They just said, well, things could have happened. Folks, if you jaywalk, why is jaywalking illegal? It's illegal because it can cause a lot of problems. Bodily harm to the person jaywalking, it can cause traffic accidents. It generally is not good for law and order. No one is calling for Khabib to not be punished. No one is calling for him to not suffer consequences. You can't jump out of the octagon and go after a rival's teammate. You cannot do these kinds of things. On the other hand, you have to have a proportional set of justice, and you have to ask, what is the appropriate role of the commission? The commission is not there to pick up where law enforcement didn't. That's not their job. If they want to sanction a fighter, they can and they should. But there should be appropriate limits on that. The state of California only allows a $2,500 fine for any kind of infraction, and they can double that if it's against the spirit of the sport or something. To take $500,000 from him is unconscionable, it's irrational, and frankly psychotic. You have to have a proportional sense of justice. And the point about jaywalking, I'll get to our next guest in here in just a second. The point about jaywalking is that if it does cause further damage, well, then you go on and you say you did all of these other things as a consequence of your action. But if you just cross the street and nobody gets hurt, I think in the end, you decide, here's a ticket. All right, let's go to our guest. Is he on Skype? I believe he's on Skype. Yes? No? Yes, he is on Skype. Let's go to him now. There he is, the one and only 125-pound phenom, Shorty Torres. Hi, Mr. Torres. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm alive. How about yourself?
Alive? Just alive? You're clean shaven? You're smiling? You must be more than just alive.
I decided to look pretty for once in my life. I was looking at old throwback photos. I was like, let's just do it once. And I'm getting all this backlash of people messaging me going, you should bring the beard back. I'm like, all right. Give me a couple weeks.
I do agree that the beard is a better look. How old are you, by the way, Jose?
I'm 26.
26. Did you do your 10-year challenge on Instagram?
Yeah, I did my 10-year challenge, and it was funny because when I was a sophomore in high school, I had longer hair. I had the Bruce Lee bowl haircut, but the only problem is I have a big chin and a big head. So naturally, I'm trying to pick on the freshmen, but the freshmen are picking on me, calling me Lord Farquaad. So decided to make a meme about that and put that up. And it's like, well, might as well have some fun with it. But yeah, man, it's been pretty cool looking at old photos.
Let's talk about what happened with you. So you were in the UFC as of when? When did you move on from them?
So I was in the UFC for Utica, which was June 1st, so pretty much a month or around that, 10 days before that I got signed. And then my last fight was August 4th against Alex Perez, and it was the constant calls of Mick Maynard going, hey, when am I going to fight again? When am I going to fight again? Yeah, obviously I would like to take a break, but when am I going to fight again for a full 2-month training camp? Because if people don't know, I had 9-day notice and then 20-day notice in a 45-day span for the 2 fights. And then hey, you're going to be, fighting next year. You're going to be fighting next year. You're going to be fighting this date. And then, I don't know, I was released, I think, in November.
All right, so you fought, again, Alex Perez on August 4th. How often were you in contact with matchmakers after that fight?
After that, I'd probably say maybe every 2 to 3 weeks trying to get something figured out and go, hey, I would like a full 2-month training camp, something to actually show what I'm able to do.
And when you asked for a 2-month training camp, what was their response generally?
So they go, hey, you just fought twice. We're going to move you to the back of the line just because, there's a bench of people waiting to, mainly flyweights, to get, their fights going. So he's like, we'll move you to the back of the line and we'll probably get you in November. All right, cool. We'll get you in December. All right, we'll get you sometime early next year. All right, we'll see whenever you're going to fight. And then when this whole Demetrius Johnson thing, got posted out there, well, I wanted to take advantage of it. I had my own YouTube series. I put a video about it. And, well, I guess it was bad publicity to the UFC, and I was the first one released because of it.
Did they say that's why they released you?
No, but I was the first one kind of going, hey, I brought up the speculation video, but I'm not trying to say, am I right? But am I right? And they go, no, you're not right. And then the next week they call me back, okay, you are right. And the next week they call me back, you're released. It's like, oh, thanks.
Wow. Okay, so we spoke right when you got released. I think like the day you made it public that you got released. Did they say it had anything to do with your performance? You won one, you lost one. Did that play any role?
Well, the leeway out of the contracts are once you lose, they can technically cut you. I mean, look at Dustin Ortiz, look at all these guys being released by the UFC. Once they lose, they're out. So for me, the way they looked at it was they never even looked at my 135 performances. Again, I have 8 professional wins, 4 of them being at flyweight, 4 of them being at bantamweight, and 4 of them total, 2 and 2 in each weight class, had been title fights for Titan FC. They didn't look at my bantamweight records. They go, your first fight, you technically got lucky, and your second fight, you got demolished by Alex Perez, and that's it. We're not going to give you another chance. It's like, oh, okay. And then now after that, I don't feel as bad because they're literally cutting everything. People aren't fighting the fight anymore. They're fighting for the contract. So all the flyweights are literally being let go once they lose.
Okay. So since that time, who have you spoken to about this in terms of other promoters? Did you get a lot of interesting offers, a few ones? Like how has the market been?
So we talked to a bunch of promotions, KSW, Pancrase, 1FC. I believe Ryzen was kind of itching a little bit there. We're trying to get to them. And then, for sure Brave, just because I do have a background with them with KHK MMA. Before they ended up starting the Brave promotion, which, people were Frankie Edgar, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Alex Soto, other UFC veterans. And, yeah, man. So eventually I went to the World Championships in Bahrain and was able to talk to Sheikh Khalid, which is the prince of the country, and CEO Mohammed Shahid, and we ended up figuring out a deal then and there, and it ended up being 2 times better than the UFC, and literally respect-wise, I can say this is what I expected to be in what to get to be in the best promotion in the world.
Okay, so tell me what it is. So you have officially signed a deal. What can you tell us about the terms of the deal?
Well, in terms of the deal, I'm definitely making more than what I did in the UFC, which is very unheard of, mainly for a person who, one, is coming off of a loss, and UFC veterans are usually making a little less. But I'm a young athlete, and they see that, and they see what can really unfold with me. I was able to receive a signing bonus. I have a 4-fight contract. I'm pretty much fighting all over the world, and I am going to be signing a commentating deal with them as well because I am able to speak. I have commentated for them twice, and they see what they can what they can do with me, and I think that's really, really amazing.
All right, so 4-fight deal, more than you were making in UFC. Are you fighting flyweight and bantamweight?
Yeah, so I was given the offer to do that, and my ultimate goal, if everything works out well, is repeat what I did in Titan. My first fight is at flyweight, which I'm going to announce very, very soon. But my first fight is at flyweight. Hopefully, second fight is a title fight. Third fight, defend it, and fourth fight, bump up and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, do you know when you're going to be making your debut?
So my debut will be for Brave 22, March 15th in the Philippines in the Mall of Manila, which is huge for me because my favorite fighter is Manny Pacquiao, and rumor has it he is going to be there. And March 15th, I'll be fighting a guy, and I could be saying his name wrong, but Amir Albazi. He is 11-0, a Bellator veteran. He's beaten an IMUF World Championship in his last fight, so he is an undefeated upcoming prospect, and it's 11-0 versus 8-1. I mean, he technically has a better record than me, and it's a nice debut fight because again, there's no slouches in the promotion. At least at flyweight, everyone's trying to be the very first inaugural champ, and there's definitely some competition in there.
How did it make you feel? Before you talk about how great this deal is for you. When you first got cut, how worried were you about your fighting future?
I wouldn't say I was worried because again, I got cut at 26 years old. I know I have nothing but time. You look at Kyoji Horiguchi. He got cut very early, or he ended up leaving very early in his career, and now he's, Ryzen's pretty much, just Mayweather in a sense, and he's doing so many things. And there's so many other fighters that have done the same thing, moved to different promotions, and have still extremely succeeded very, very well. So for me, it was just trying to find the right home. And I believe for me, Brave was the right home. It was just, it took time. It really was a struggle. It's stressful. One, to find out if you're going to fight again, when you're going to fight again. Oh, I'm released. When and who's going to sign me for what money, and I ended up finding the best deal possible.
And now with this deal, I mean, is this better than even you had hoped? Like when you think about what was realistically possible and what you ultimately signed, how far apart are they?
So what I got with Brave now is what I expected in the UFC. You see the UFC is the biggest promotion in the world. They're the most popular promotion in the world. So you expect them to respect their fighters to the fullest and do this and be communicating with them and just keep everything in check. But it wasn't. For at least my experiences, I learned that we're just very, very expendable. And I see a lot of veterans, and I talk to a lot of guys that have been released by the UFC, and it's like, well, once you're in, that's it. They have you. If you have to fight, and you're not their Anderson Silva, you're not their champ, you're not their Brian Ortega, the guy that they're really trying to promote. Then that's it. You're just meat to the wolves. So for me, that's what I was. Again, 45 days, 2 fights, and I'd lose 26 and 28 pounds. They didn't care. It was either you fight, or that was my contract for August 4th. Either you fight now in 20 days' time, you're probably not going to fight again until next year. It's like, that's more than 4 to 6 months. And I don't know when next year is. I don't know if you're saying early next year, mid next year, at the end. So you're going to hold me for, my I got the basic contract. How long is that going to last me? I still have to pay my bills. I still have to do different things. I still have to now, in a sense, be an adult. So it's, it was a struggle. But with Brave, I have no worry whatsoever. And I know I'm being taken care of very well.
No, I have to ask one question about this. I just have to do my due diligence. It does sound like they care deeply for you, and this is going to be a great deal. It is tied to the Bahraini government, which does have some human rights issues. Any concern about being in business with them as a consequence?
Honestly, no, because I'm not a very political person. I don't know much about that. From what I see, I do talk to the Sheikh, I do talk to Mohammed Shahid, and I do talk to everyone involved in Brave and KHK. But for me, that's never come into my life. That's never come into my life. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but for me, this is not what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on fighting and building my career, and that's just what's in front of me.
Any concerns? Not concerns exactly, but like you're going to be fighting in Manila. You'll probably be fighting in Bahrain. You'll probably be fighting in places outside of the U.S. Any concern about that in terms of building a brand as a U.S. entity?
For me, and this is something Brave is doing as well, is the U.S. market's already tapped. Everyone's really trying to get in here, and the opportunity is very, very little. But there's not many stars outside of the country. I mean, I went to Saudi Arabia and we're in the mall in Saudi Arabia just hanging out doing the open workouts, and people already know my name before I'm even signed to the promotion or even publicly signed to the promotion. So it's a huge thing to finally, in a sense, why can, for example, Manny Pacquiao from the Philippines be a huge star in the U.S., but we can't be a huge star in the Philippines? So for me, it gives us a different market of, I don't want to just be known around the U.S. I want to be known around the world, mainly for being a two-time IMF world champion, now a seven-time, Titan FC defending champion. I want to be another, champion that for me is a hopefully a two-division Brave champion. That's around the world. It's a global promotion, and that's the market I'm looking at.
I don't know what your views were on fighter unions before. Have they changed as a consequence of this process?
I wouldn't say they've changed completely, because I do believe there should be something more for fighters. The union is obviously very, very hard because fighters are expendable. We come and go. There are injuries constantly, and it's insurance wise and billing and all that stuff. It gets extremely complicated. But I do believe fighters easily should be paid more, because again, I fought once, defending or trying to win another belt for Titan FC, broke my hand, tore in my MCL. I wasn't able to fight for another 6 to 7 months. And what happens just in case if that fight ends up backing out, if that fighter ends up getting injured, then I have to wait possibly a few more months. So, the pay is very, very low for someone else's entertainment.
What did you make, by the way, of how TJ Dillashaw looked down at 125? He made the cut, but the fight ended a little bit early. Obviously, the stoppage is somewhat in question. How did you view that whole thing?
Yeah, it is a bummer. I think TJ looked phenomenal. Good for him, because he was ripped going down to 125. I know he has a very, very phenomenal coach, which I sadly never got to meet. But, training at the training lab and seeing what he's done and seeing his training when he was getting ready for Cody Garbrandt 1, he's a whole different athlete. And for Cejudo to be able to do that to him, I don't believe that's the weight cut. And TJ does get caught early. You see the Cody Garbrandt fight the first time. You even see the second time he was clipped a couple times, not dropped, but still hit a couple times. Cejudo just caught him, and the ref, I believe, stopped it a little too early. But again, it's fighter safety first. It's an unfair share of circumstances, but what's done is done, and I'm hoping they get a rematch at bantamweight.
Is it not weird that you have this moment where the best fighter the UFC's had in a long time leaves to go to one? They get this new flyweight champ who's bilingual, former Olympic champ. He beats the 135-pound champ, and there's still designs on closing it. It's like, what more could the flyweights do? I guess sell more tickets, but isn't it odd that at this moment of flyweight strength, it's being eroded?
Well, I wish they would have prolonged this a little bit instead of releasing all the flyweights now. Maybe they should have waited for the TJ Cejudo fight, and if Cejudo won, which he did, then possibly really rebuild and now get this new hype in the flyweight division. But they started it so early that even though Cejudo won, they've already cut more than 80% of the division. Oh, sorry guys, you can come on back. That's my bad. We're not going to close the division. It doesn't make sense for them. So for them, they're really just doing a process of elimination and still cutting as it goes. I believe Cejudo's a great champion. He's a phenomenal fighter, gold medalist, like you said, bilingual. He's not a Conor McGregor. He's not a Colby Covington. He's not someone that's easily marketable when it comes to his own persona. That's the hardest part. I think, again, Cejudo's a great guy and he means well, but he is a different individual that he more speaks with his talent instead of, his mouth, like Conor McGregor and Colby and all those other guys.
But it sounds like what you're playing with your career is, I talk to a lot of guys that leave the UFC and they go, yeah, you know what, I might go back one day. I never know. You're still young. You never know where your life could take you. But when you think about a return to the UFC, is it even a real thought?
Honestly, right now, no. Again, I'm 26. I was just released. I'm in a new promotion, Brave, and that's the biggest venture I'm looking at right now. We'll see where time takes me. We'll see where the world takes me. But right now, when it comes to the UFC, it's more of not money, but it's respect. It's not just respecting myself, but respecting the fighters in general. And I just don't see that for mainly the flyweights of the smaller guys. And again, I've noticed if you're not their number one guy, if you're not the guy that they're trying to build up, then who cares? I mean, even look at Sage Northcutt. Sage Northcutt left with a positive record, but he still was released as well. And now he's making something big in one I've seen. I think that's amazing for him as well.
So in the end, I don't know if it's good that the UFC got rid of their flyweight division, but if you are getting opportunities to make more money, to do commentary, to do events all over the world, on some level, I guess it is kind of good, right?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing what I have right now. I mean, I'm telling you, what I what I'm receiving right now from Brave is something I expected from the most popular promotion in the world, which is the UFC, but that's not the case. And I've learned that even though UFC is on this pedestal, it's not the pinnacle of the sport. There's so many other promotions out there that can easily take care of you that much better. And for me, Brave is that promotion. And I mean, in only 2 years, I believe they're the fourth, if not third biggest promotion that have gone to 14 countries. I think the fights in the Philippines, there's 10 fights. All 10 fighters are from different countries. You know, they're extremely a global promotion. So they're not just going, hey, you're American, we're going to promote you in the U.S. No, they're going to the Philippines. Yeah, their main event is Filipino, but they literally have everyone. My guy is from London, from what I know. You know, so all these countries, it's literally country versus country and representing their own nations. It is in a sense, a bigger or more professional world championship sense.
Well, I got to tell you, I wish you nothing but the best of luck in the next chapter of your career. March 15th, right? By the way, how can folks watch the fight?
That one, I know Brave does have their own online streaming service. I can't remember the actual website. It's like brave.tv something at the end. But overall, if anyone wants to look up Brave themselves, just type it in on Google, Brave CF. And I mean, all their info is on their website. Most of the time, it's either on YouTube or through a streaming service. And doesn't matter where you're at around the world, you're always able to rewatch it and just have fun and enjoy the fights.
Shorty, I appreciate your time. Wish you nothing but the best of luck in March, and I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Hopefully next time I see you, I'll have my beard back.
Yes, me too. That would be great. I really appreciate it. Take care. Take care, Jose. All right, we go from one guest to the next. You know this gentleman. He needs no introduction. He is known as Wonder Boy. He's got a big fight coming up against Anthony Pettis. There he is. Everyone's in their car today. Hi, Mr. Wonder Boy. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Getting errands ran today, man. Headed out tomorrow for Nashville to get some media in, so trying to get things done.
Well, I appreciate your time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. When this fight was announced, I liked it because it is unusual, and there are some risks involved. But let's talk about some of the things that made people scratch their heads a little bit. If you get a win in the UFC is always significant. It doesn't matter if you're at the top of the division or the bottom. So I'm not talking about that. What I am going to ask is, besides that, what do you get out of beating Anthony Pettis at 170 pounds?
You know, that's a good question. That's something that I sat down and talked with my coaches about to see if we wanted to take this fight in the first place. Because, beating the former 145 champ, of course, he moved to 155. Now he wants to fight at 170. What does that do for my career? Well, Anthony Pettis has a name. And at this point in time, I was out. I've been out for almost 7 months. I had a knee injury after the Till fight. And just one fight after the next that we were trying to shoot for, it just didn't happen. I tried to fight Lawler, RDA, Ponzinibbio, and things just weren't happening. So, to be honest with you, I was just ready to take anything that came my way. I was actually headed to Denver on a snowboarding trip, and I took my phone off of plane mode, and my phone was blowing up. That's how I got the word that he was calling me out. So I was like, you know what, I'll take anything. And I'm not going to. This is not a fight that I'm going to take lightly. He does have some very good striking. He's got a knockout reel. So, but I welcome him to open arms to 170.
So here's what I was thinking about. Tell me if I'm wrong. What I thought was, it's obvious what he gets. If he beats you, he beats what? Top 5 guy in the division. I think you were ranked 4 last. It jumps him right to the front of the queue. Plus, he'd have a win in a third weight class. All that stuff. So that part I get. For you, though, you mentioned he does have a name, and he is coming up to 170. You are a natural 170-pounder. You are taller. You fit into the body type that works well in that weight class much more effortlessly. So for you, it's a more manageable fight. True or false?
I would say true. I mean, yeah, he is coming up to my weight. He doesn't have to cut the weight. I guess that could be a positive maybe. But, I'm not a big welterweight. I'm not a massive welterweight like Tyrant. I don't have to cut a crazy amount of weight. 15 pounds is 15 pounds. But, you hear guys cutting 25, 30 pounds before a fight. And so I'm not drained the next day. You've never seen me step out there after a weight cut and except for once when I fought Matt Brown. I was walking around at 215. So, but, I'm not a big welterweight. So it's going to be easy for me.
You said that other welterweights were saying no to opportunities with you?
Well, I tried to get I was pushing Lawler really hard. I was pushing it. UFC was saying that it may or may not happen. Lawler was saying it was going to happen. And then I was in New York helping Chris Weidman get, prep for his fight against Jacare Souza. And then they announced that he was fighting Askren. So I'm like, all right. So I tried to fight RDA. He said he was having surgery. Leon Edwards, he said his sciatica was acting up. And then Ponzinibbio, he just said no. So it just wasn't working out for me. So I was just willing to take anything, to be honest with you.
So for you, it's more important to stay busy than it is to wait for the right opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, it keeps you in the limelight. You see this with fighters all the time. If you're not staying active, you kind of put on the shelf a little bit. And I'm still going for that title. I'm not giving up on it. And I think with some wins, no matter who it is, it's going to keep me where I'm at, or hopefully will put that in the UFC. Put me with a good win over Pettis in the UFC's mind. Say, hey, let's push this guy up a little bit. Let's get him a fight with another top 5 guy. There's a lot of guys right now who I'd like to fight, but they have fights coming up. But so it just wasn't working out for me in the 170. The past few months. So I was keeping my fingers crossed, and next thing you know, Anthony Pettis is calling me out. So I was like, sure, let's do it. And I think he thinks he's got my number. I fought Tyron twice. He's got the same coach, Coach Rufus, and Rufus thinks he's got my number. So I'm here to prove him wrong.
So you believe that Rufus thinks he has your number?
No. I mean, he says that. Yeah, he comes from a karate background. Anthony Pettis comes from a taekwondo background, but I don't. Tyron's a different fighter, and still he didn't have an answer for me. He hit me in the 4th round with a right hand. He actually hit me with it twice, but I think it was more on my fault. Rushing in with my hands down than anything. He still was kind of confused. He still really didn't have an answer, and it was still a very close fight, both of them. We got the draw the first fight. The second fight was controversial, so I don't think he's got my number. My style is very hard to bring in fighters for and to prepare for. So, I think it's going to be an exciting fight. Anthony Pettis he's got some really good striking come from his background, his taekwondo background. So I think it's going to be fun.
Now, when folks zoom out, they take the macro perspective. They say, oh, Anthony Pettis, good striker. Wonderboy Thompson, good striker. But you're very different kinds of strikers. You kind of alluded to it. But in concrete terms, our audience can understand. Why are you different strikers?
Well, I think the way, I'm more of a mover, I think. More of an angler. Whenever I fight, whenever you see me fight, I work a lot off of angles. Using my kicks a lot. I think I throw more variety of kicks than Pettis does. Yeah, he's got some crazy kicks, man, off the cage. They call it the Pettis kick now that he did in WEC.
Showtime.
But I don't know. The Showtime kick. That's right, the Showtime kick. But I don't know, man. That's a good question. Like it's kind of it's very difficult to break down because we have some similarities, we have some differences as well. I think he's more well-rounded. Like he's submitted some really good high-level grapplers in the past. I mean, his last fight I think it was 155. He submitted Chiesa, which I thought was going to go the other way around. He submitted him and was doing work. And now Chiesa's moved up to 170, defeated Carlos Condit. So I think that's another reason why he thinks he's going to do well in the 170 division, because you got a lot of 155ers moving up. Of course, Cowboy Cerrone's has done well in my division. He's moved back down. But, man, I always think I'm the better striker. I'm definitely the better striker than Pettis. So I've got the reach on him. I'm faster than him, and I'm coming with more power.
And fair to say, you have just a more unique style. Now, Anthony Pettis has a very unique style and takes some risks, but is generally, I would say, this is going to sound crazy, but you're right. In terms of that moving thing you do, that is much more rare, even with that creativity that Anthony Pettis does. So it's fair to say he's probably not fought a lot of movers like you. And again, I'm not saying you fought, Pettis' clone. That's not what I'm saying. but someone a little bit more in that tradition.
Yeah, I agree. And you are starting to see more of that style in coming up in the UFC. I mean, Gunnar Nelson, he comes from a karate background. Conor McGregor, when he fought Jose Aldo, his movement, man, was on point, and he uses that movement to really lure his partner in and his opponent in. That's why he ended up landing that left hand. and I fight the same way. Anderson Silva's been known to fight that way as well. And now you're seeing Israel Adonis doing the same thing. So you're starting to see, and one of the best, MVP, Michael Page Venom, freaking amazing. So you're starting to see more and more of it. But a lot of these guys have been doing this for years. They've been doing this for a very long time. So it's hard for just some Joe Blow to pick it up and be able to do it out there in the octagon, in 6 weeks or whatever. So, but you are seeing more and more of that style.
What do you make of the welterweight division today? You noted, part of the reason you're in this position is because these guys are kind of standing pat at the top. Let's start there. You've got Wonder Boy taking on Kamaru Usman. Forget the whole Colby Covington angle for just a second. You fought Tyron Woodley for a long time, 10 rounds, man. What do you make of Usman's chances there?
I think Usman is a grinder, man. I think for him to win, he's going to have to go out there and tire him out, just lay on Tyron. But it's very difficult because he's a D1 wrestler. Tyron is a very explosive, very strong, athletic human being, and he's got great striking. I mean, he knocked down Darren Till in the second round with the right hand. He knocked me down three times in both of our fights. I think Usman he's got a gas tank. I know that guy doesn't get tired. Tyron is notorious for that, especially when he's fighting somebody who just is relentless. And that's how Usman's going to be. I think that will be his game plan. But that said, Usman does slow down. Like, he doesn't stop, but his striking slows down tremendously. When you saw him fight RDA, he was throwing his punches, but he was dropping them like crazy. And Tyron will take full advantage of that. So, oh, man, I hate predicting fights, but I think for my career, it would be better if Usman won. I think it would be better if Usman won, in the fact that it gives me a better chance to fight for the title faster.
Right. It'd be a fresh matchup because you've already fought Tyron twice. If there's a new king at the top, it gives you more reason to be seen against him.
Exactly, 100%. And if Tyron wins, man, I'll have to work my way back up, several more. I have to fight, more fights than I would if Usman got the title. And it is, man. And right now it's kind of crazy because you got Colby Covington, which is understandable, waiting to fight for the title. I don't think he's going to face anybody. I know they tried to get him to fight Darren Till in London, and it'd be dumb for him to take that fight, to be honest with you, especially in London, But Masvidal, I think, took that fight, right? Is it Masvidal?
Yeah.
Yeah, Masvidal. That's going to be a good one. But yeah, we kind of had a stalemate there for a little while. It wasn't really sure who's going to be fighting for the title next. And then you hear there was going to be an interim title. So it's like, what the heck is going on? For this division to be so stacked, it shouldn't be at a stalemate like it was for so long.
What did you make of, by the way, Darren Till? And you guys had I know it was very close, your fight with him. And then he goes and fights Woodley and gets the doors blown off. I still think he's a very talented fighter. I think he's got a bright future. But that, you went 10 rounds with him. Is it just a styles make fights kind of thing? What happened there?
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe the weight cut had something to do with it. He doesn't cut weight very well, Darren Till. He looks like he's about to die whenever he does. He made weight. He told everybody what he was going to do. But he performed a whole lot differently when he fought Tyron than when he fought me. Of course, he didn't make weight when he fought me. And there was a lot, in that first round when I fought Darren Till, that side kick to the knee definitely slowed me down. I ended up tearing my MCL in the first round. And from then on, I was kind of playing my knee felt very unstable. So I wasn't taking very many risks during that fight, But hey, it goes to show, what type of fighter Darren Till is. Not Tyron Woodley is. He's a beast, man. He's a beast. He was a champion at Strikeforce, right, for a while.
Yeah.
And then come to the UFC and just doing work and fight some high-level grapplers, high-level strikers, and winning. You know, beast. I think, I think he's going to beat Usman. I hope Usman wins, but I think he's got it. I think Tyron's got it.
No, the interesting part about this is what I was asking, like, what do you get out of a win? I think you're right. You get to stay active. If the fight's exciting, people will want to, like, they look at you differently again. But then you got this weird Ben Askren fight with Robbie Lawler, right? Because the winner there could get a title shot, but only if it's Robbie.
Yep.
If Tyron wins, or if Usman wins, I guess it could be either. What I'm wondering is, where do you fit into this whole thing? Is you, Pettis, and then, of course, Askren and Lawler? Like, where are you in that mix?
You know what? That's a good question, man. I mean, if Tyron wins, I don't think Askren would fight his buddy. I know he's pushing to fight. What I've seen on social media to go, for them to make that 165 division. So he may want to cut to that. But if Usman wins, the winner of the Robbie and Askren may get that title shot, which means I'll have to fight maybe one more time, which I don't mind. I'll be 36 in a few weeks, but I'm a young 36-year-old. I haven't taken a whole lot of damage. We train here at our school very intelligently, so that way we're not beating each other up all the time. So I've got some time. I've got a small window to kind of do what I want to do, and I just want to take every advantage of it. So, man, it's very difficult to really put me in that mix because, where do I fit in? I mean, I may have to fight if it really depends on who wins, to be honest with you. Who wins the Tyron Usman fight and who wins the Askren and Robbie fight? I think it all depends on who wins there.
All right, let me ask you about something a little bit differently. There's two middleweight fights that are happening this weekend. One with a gentleman you defeated in Robert Whitaker. How do you think he does against another former welterweight in Kelvin Gastelum? What do you make of that matchup?
Man, that's going to be a great fight. Man, I'm so looking forward to it. I'll actually be in Florida in an appearance for that fight. And Robert Whitaker is definitely a different fighter from when I fought him last. His takedown defense is ridiculous. And his cardio is out there. Like, the guy does not get tired. But Kelvin Gastelum is the exact same. He's got very good hands, Gastelum does. He's got great wrestling. But I think Robert Whitaker is going to come out with the win. He's got a longer reach. I think his movement and striking, his combinations are put together well, better than Kelvin Gastelum. And if Kelvin Gastelum gets overwhelmed with the striking, he's not going to be able to take Whitaker down, I don't think. And Whitaker is he's huge. I remember, standing in front of him, facing off with him at 170. I mean, big barrel chest,
Yeah.
I mean, big arms, big shoulders. And I saw him not too long ago, and he's massive. He's massive. He's not a big 185er, but he's just solid, which is great. I'm taking Whitaker on this one.
And then Israel Adesanya, one of the most exciting talents in the sport. You were just talking about him a second ago, taking on Anderson Silva. This has been a sort of a point of debate, I think, on this show and other ones. It's like, of course, everybody has respect for Anderson Silva, truly one of the greats of the game. But the question is sort of what he has left at this point. Adesanya is still in his 20s and just running through people. What do you make of this matchup? How competitive in the end do you think it will be?
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't think it will be. I mean, from watching Anderson Silva's last few fights, he just looked he wasn't the same. I think whenever he broke his leg, when he fought his shin, when he fought Wittman, took a lot out of him. I mean, he was out for a very long time, and he just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if he doesn't have that drive or that timing like he used to have. He just felt very, very slow and just didn't have that timing like he used to. I've spent some time with Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida when they were training at Black House in California. This is before I was in the UFC. I was looking for management, and my brother-in-law, Carlos Machado, knew the guys up there at Black House. So I spent a few weeks up there training with Anderson, and which was a dream come true for me. Me being coming from a karate and kickboxing background, Anderson Silva was like my idol, and Lyoto Machida, especially with his karate background. And from sparring with him and seeing him then, and to see him his last few fights with Bisping, and I forgot who else it was. There's a difference. There is a big difference. I think Israel's going to go out there and school him. I mean, it would be cool. I think it would be very cool to see Anderson, him being the veteran, go out there and just finish him. That would definitely put a smile on my face, but I don't see it happening.
Well, I know what I am going to see happen. I'm going to see you fight Anthony Pettis. This will be March 23rd at the Bridgestone Arena. Main event for UFC on ESPN Plus 6, which is a weird name, but UFC Fight Night 148. Yeah. I can't wait to see it. It's a really weird and interesting fight, but it's got my attention, and I look forward to seeing the result. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, my brother. Definitely a pleasure. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
We certainly will. There he goes. Go get those errands done. The Wonder Boy there. All right, we go next to the Skype machine is going to stay busy today. Truly one of my favorite people in the sport. Former fighter himself and a phenomenal coach. I don't think gets nearly enough credit. I wanted to get him on the show today, even though I know he's been traveling. Ricardo Almeida. Hey, Ricardo, why do some people call you Ricardo when we call every other Ricardo in the sport Ricardo? Which is it?
I don't know, man. I guess I've been in the U.S. for too long. Not too many people think I'm Brazilian anymore. I'm not sure, but it's cool both ways. No problem. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, of course, Ricardo. I love talking to you. You're one of my favorite guys in the sport. First of all, congratulations. Could that have gone any better for Marlon yesterday? Did we lose him? Signal's fading. Let's see what's up with that signal. Do you want to put the thumbnail up till we get him back? Let's get him back here. Is he still in Brazil? He must be. That money Brazilian internet. I can't talk too much. The U.S. internet's not that great either.
Guys,
there he is.
Stage that, man, my signal where I am is horrible. Also, forgive me if it's really bad.
No, you're back now. There we go. One more time. Let's try it again. How would you rate that win for Marlon?
Man, I think it's a 10 out of 10. He showcased all his power, his speed, his timing, his finishing instincts. I think Marlon is the type of guy that you watch him hit pads or you watch him even just warm up and he's special. And sometimes it takes many fights for people to show that in a fight. And Marlon's been showing that, every fight since his first fight in the UFC. So I think it was perfect for him to come back and beat the only guy that he had lost to in the past, 5-6 years,
You know what? I was just watching this fight. There's so many things I liked about what he did. Let me start with one thing, and it's not what he did, it's just who he is. We talk about the best athletes in the UFC. For some reason, I don't see Marlon's name on that list, Ricardo. My God, Marlon is a phenomenal athlete. Why doesn't he get credit for that? All right, we got to do this. Let's call him back. Let's put up the thumbnail. We got to call him on the phone because we got to get this done the right way. I am dying to have this conversation. Plus, we got to get to the sound off, donks. You know what I'm saying? Got to keep this train rolling. But I said it before on the Monday Morning Analyst. It's like, I'm not saying people don't consider him a good athlete. That's not my point. But like, if you're listing out like, oh, who's a phenomenal athlete? I don't usually see Marlon's name bandied about. It needs to be. It needs to be. And again, not because he's some raw athletic power who does nothing else. No. I think part of the reason people don't bring it up, and this is just a theory, I don't really know, is because he is so technical, right? He looks, physically strong, but he is so technical, he is so sharp, he is so well-rounded that he doesn't necessarily need some of those other things. So he doesn't lean on them in such a way where, Yoel Romero is so athletic, but he got into MMA in his late 30s or early 40s, and so he has to lean on it a little bit more. Marlon's not that way, and so I think folks just don't necessarily consider him one of those guys. But Jesus, man, he is a ridiculous athlete. It's kind of amazing to watch. All right, we're gonna try and get him back here on the phone because that internet is not money. But I thought that was just how much better of a win could that have possibly been for Marlon? It's hard for me to imagine it could have gone much better. That was just amazing. An amazing, amazing win. Number one contender? Has to be, right? Has to be. I spoke to TJ Dillashaw, I want to say, when was this? Fight week for UFC on ESPN Plus for one. And he was like, yeah, I don't have a contender anymore. That's why the 125 fight makes sense. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it was true. Like, those two guys had to fight. Okay, well, they fought. Now it's pretty clear. All right, let's try it one more time. Let's go to our friend here on the phone. It's Ricardo. Hi, Ricardo. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect, man.
Okay,
Sorry for the bad signal again.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's get back to it. You were saying the win was a 10 out of 10. Did he do everything you guys wanted him to, Marlon, on Saturday?
I mean, you always game plan, and you always try to give the fighter like a clear picture of where the slippery slopes are, and like where they should how they should try to win. But you never really go according to plan. But Marlon is just the type of guy that he could make something special out of anything, and he's starting to really show that in the UFC. He's starting to really have the performances that he was having late in his career at World Series of Fighting. Like he just beat like three like world class guys, and the entire fighting time doesn't equal around, man. So it's pretty impressive. Like I was like impressed. I see the guy sparring all the time, but one round he's going with Frankie, another round he's going with Zabit, and then he's going with some other Russian dude, and you forget just how good these guys are, and then they get out there, and I'm like, wow, like I'm taken back just by his performance for sure.
Okay, so a few questions about this. Obviously, he's the top contender at this point. What do you think was the difference, though, between the first Assuncao fight and this one? I mean, yes, he won more quickly, but in terms of how good he is and his approach, like, what was the major difference?
I mean, I think that when you go into the UFC and you start to fight there, I think there's without a doubt like a step up in competition. Besides maybe like one or two or three guys in the organizations like outside of the UFC, so almost every fight you're gonna get a really really tough guy, and once you step into the top five, man, it's like you roll the dice. You know what I mean? Like every one of these main events is just so hard to keep winning. Like as a coaching staff, like me and Mark, like we go into these fights. It's a main event with Frankie, then it's a main event with Marlon, then it's like a main event with Eddie, and it's hard to put back-to-back wins. But so what I think Marlon has done, like not necessarily doing like three main events in the world, but like three top 5, top 10 guys in a row. And be able to win in that fashion, I think he's just more comfortable. He knows what he needs to do. He's more comfortable. Like he's not holding himself back. So I think time, it's experience. The experience, I think, is the big key. He's able to let go more and truly be like everything that he can be as a fighter.
When I asked you this before, but we got the connection cut off, it occurred to me that like Marlon is so good at so many things. Decision making, he's got crisp boxing, his footwork is good, he sets everything up, but he's like a ridiculous athlete. Why don't you think he gets credit, or more credit, I should say, for being maybe one of the best athletes in the UFC?
I think that, yeah, and I agree with you, man. Like he's one of the most athletic guys I've ever seen. Like some of the things that you see Marlon doing in the gym, just like messing around, I think that he doesn't get the credit because Marlon is so technically sound. Like his defense is so good, and his power, he's got so much power. Yet like he's never really super flashy. He's just devastating. You know what I mean? Like you take a guy, he'll do. Even Edson's big spinning kick knockout. That was devastating, but there was also like super flashy, and Marlon, without flash, but with decisive violence, he's able to finish these guys. So always people are going to think that he's an athletic guy. Maybe they're just going to think that he hits that hard or he's been in some fights. He's finished guys so quick that he hasn't really had to show his athleticism,
By the way, have you gone back and watched the fight on video yet?
I haven't. I was actually at the airport leaving because I left right after the fight. I went straight to the airport in Fortaleza and I saw like the finish. But yeah, just that finishing combo where he slips and he throws like an uppercut and a hook, and Assuncao steps back, drops his hand, he hits the first right hand, and then he just changes the speed. He hits another 1-2. It was incredible, man. Like just the speed and power in that, and to be able to follow up and finish, it was just. I had my mouth open at the end. I was like, man, how did you just do all that in like 2 minutes? You know, it's crazy.
Okay, here's one thing, and I'm legitimately asking because I have no idea. Obviously, he won via mounted arm and guillotine. But I went back and I watched this. You're a black belt, a high-level one at that. Assuncao had both his hands free and then brought them both to the inside to defend. Why did he do that?
Man, I think that when Marlon started to squeeze and he pulled guard, he was free. And I think that Assuncao brought the arm down to try to block the hip as he rolled, you know. And Marlon was smart. Like he stepped the leg on the same side of the choke because that's the one that you kind of, you know, you want the guy to be able to trap him there. And like on the roll, he was able to end up above and climb and get above the arm. So Assuncao's arms were strapped, and then he had to pull that arm out from the arm that was stuck in the guillotine to be able to get the finish, you know, so to be able to tap. So it was pretty impressive. I couldn't really see from the angle that I was. I just could see Marlon like dropping the hips and him having to pull arm to tap. I don't know. A lot of times in the transition, guys don't try to do that. But as you roll, you know, you end up above the arms. We see a couple of finishes like that with Gary Tonon has done a couple of finishes like that too.
Interesting. Okay, I'll go back and look at it another time because that one kind of confused me. It was a little weird, but it was devastating all the same. I mean, you get a tap from Raphael Assuncao, you earn it, and he certainly did. Now that leads us to the next step. You have got to like his chances against anyone in that weight class. Tell me how, in your mind, that you think Marlon matches up with TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, I just think the raw power and defense of Marlon, you know, and I think Dillashaw is going to be trying to like move around and you know, kind of come in from angles and things like that. And I think honestly, I think that's a perfect style for Marlon. I think Dillashaw's weakest spot is his wrestling. To be honest, you know what I mean? Like he's not the type of guy that could, you know, threaten with a whole lot of takedowns. Like, he could take down like a couple of guys, but he's gotten taken down a lot, and I don't think that he has like that takedown button. You know what I mean? That, you know, I want to take this guy down, I'm going to take this guy down. So, man, if you're going to fight Marlon standing for 25 minutes, I just think it's hard, you know, like not to take anything away from TJ, man. Like I'm a huge fan of TJ, man. He's amazing, you know, some of the things that he has done. He's probably one of my favorite guys to watch, like his striking, you know, he's like in and out, and he's very elusive, and he has a lot of tools, but I don't consider him like a super complete guy. And man, like in this weight class, if you're not going to threaten with everything, I think that was the huge evolution of Cejudo in his second fight with Mighty Mouse, where he was able to threaten the takedowns. He was able to hit him. He was able to kick him. And I think that's what made him be able to beat Dillashaw. You know, like Dillashaw had to worry about the takedown. He had to worry about all these other things. And I think in a fight where, you know, Marlon and TJ, I think the winner is going to be the guy that's able to be more complete and threaten with different things. You know, and I honestly think it's a great matchup for Marlon's style.
How much of the loss that TJ just suffered, how much of that do you attribute to the weight cut?
Man, you never know. You know, like that's the thing about the sport, man. Like I said it earlier. You know, like you take the top 2 or 3 or 5 guys in each weight class, and it's literally like a roll of the dice. You know what I mean? Like and a lot of times that roll of the dice is what happens on that day or what happens on that week. As far as the weight cut, I think that if I had to nitpick on something, I think the weight cut might have affected him because we haven't seen him, you know, get rocked, you know, like that. And Cejudo is like a 125er. He's a tough guy, and you know, every wrestler is strong as hell and has really good right hands, but he's not known for like devastating power or anything like that, you know. So it makes me wonder if the weight cut was just too much, and just from personal experience, if I had to say anything, I think the weight cut definitely affected him. You know, that you take the weight, that doesn't mean that you're going to be 100% hydrated during the fight. Like no matter what the skill is telling you, no matter what all the science is telling you, there are just certain things in fighting are just intangible.
And then that led to the I won't call Marlon's post-fight speech hilarious, although certain admissions about his biological condition were a little bit worth chuckling about in the way that he described him. But in all seriousness, I guess he was sick. Can you tell us how sick he was during the week?
And he was so sick he didn't any one of us because he didn't want to worry us. Like we got to Brazil and we knew that he had felt sick, but not like the extent, because we got there Friday. He had already made weight. I did notice that he looked lighter than he normally does, but he never complained to me, never said anything. But then as far as his speech, that's Marlon, he sometimes can be a little emotional, and he's very sincere 100% of the time. He's one of the most simple and humble guys, and just very sincere. He wears his heart on his sleeve in everything he does, and he's the type of guy that what you see is what you get, and if he's gonna talk about diarrhea on the whole world's gonna hear about his medical condition, then the whole world's gonna hear about his medical condition. But that's just who he is as a person. He's very sincere.
Okay, but in the end, he got the W. Here's the only thing about this, Ricardo, that I do think works against him. He's headlining these shows, and that was a great show in Brazil. Not merely his win, but the vibe was great. And from a spectator's position on, in the United States, watching on the ESPN Plus app, it looked phenomenal. But he's got all these wins, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Not exactly a household name here in the United States. Do you think he is going to get the title shot next? Do you think he's done enough? Because on the popularity side, the wind is not exactly at his back.
Yeah, I think it's a weird time in the UFC. You know what I mean? There's no consistency. There's no if you do this, that guarantees you a title shot, or if you're ranked this high and you beat somebody that's ranked this high, there's really no consistency. It's the first year with the ESPN deal, so we don't really know what's going to happen as far as what's going to dictate that, if they're going to bring the big fights to pay-per-view and try to sell more pay-per-views, or if they're going to do big fights on ESPN. You never know what they're doing. To me, that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed since the new ownership took place. Just you just try to observe, and of course you want to win, and if you want to be a champion, and that part, I think there's been a little lack of consistency, all these super fights, and Connor's kind of added to that a little bit, and often in a good way. If you're gonna see these huge fights, then I want to see the best fights, when the best fighters fight each other. And I do think that the TJ Dillashaw with Cejudo was a very interesting fight. But now what? Now you have a champion that just lost to somebody from a lower weight class. And what does that do for the entire division? And, man, Dillashaw is probably one of the best 135ers, is one of the best 35ers in history. So now what? You know what I mean? As far as where does that put Marlon? I think Marlon's in a really good position, man. I think that the best position you could be is to do everything right with what you have control of. He's beating the best guys decisively and violently. I think that people look at him and you see a special fighter that's from this new generation of Brazilian guys, where there aren't many special fighters, man. I have to say that I am from Brazil. I see a huge gap between the generation of Anderson and Vitor and Minotauro and even Damian, who's now on the later end of his career. You know what I mean? He's never won a title, but he's been one of the most successful guys in UFC history as far as finishes and fights. But I think Marlon's great. I think Marlon's going to end up being a superstar here in Brazil. Just because of how good he is, and the more he fights, the more people are going to see it. And people in Brazil here, they lack someone to really look up to now, especially as Aldo is probably Aldo's last year. I think he's in a great position, and just got to keep working hard, have patience, and you're going to get what you're supposed to get.
Well, if he doesn't get the next title shot, it'll be a crime. Not saying crimes don't happen, but it would be a crime if he didn't get it. He looked phenomenal. Well, I'll just say this, Ricardo. Congratulations. You guys are doing great things over here in New Jersey, and I was just blown away by Marlon. I hope the UFC feels the same as I do because that guy is special. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And yeah, man, I want to see him fight against. I want to see all our guys fight against him. Like I'm a huge fan of our guys. Like sometimes I forget like how good they are. The Pete's up next. We got Eddie like at the end of March, and I can't wait to see Frankie fight again. So it's exciting times for us for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ricardo. Take care. What a great guy he is. I could have talked to him for an hour. We just don't have an hour. Here's what we do have time for. This is where you become a guest of the show. It is time for the sound off. I had not heard these new noises. I didn't know we were getting them. This is awesome. I knew we were getting the new intro thing, but I didn't know about that. That's kind of fun. All right, let's go to our man now. He is the ahi to my arepa. He is the rain to my Bogota, the one and only Danny Segura. Hi, Danny.
Yo, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. Why are you wearing a jacket indoors?
Yeah, good question. So Austin here has the vents pointed straight at me, so I've been shivering all show. So, I didn't bring a sweater, so I gotta pull out the jacket.
Shivering like a little chihuahua in a rich lady's purse, huh?
Sure, yeah. If that's the way we're gonna go about things.
All right. How were the calls, my friend?
They were good, man. The calls were really good. Very good questions. You'll see on the show. We also had some leftovers since we didn't have a show last week. We didn't get to talk about Bellator, so maybe we'll.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna balance them out.
Yeah, because I do think it's important to talk about some of the things that happened at Bellator 214. It was a big card, pretty big Bellator card. So let's tackle UFC Fortaleza, and then if we'll have time, we'll address that.
Okay, let's do it.
Sounds good?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, Luke and Danny, this is Floyd from Salt Lake City. Just calling to ask what your favorite moment from the UFC card was. And for me, it had to be when Michael Bisping mentioned that Johnny Walker could be one of the best light heavyweights in the world at the very moment that Johnny Walker is doing the worm across the cage like a complete weirdo. See ya.
Yeah, you know what? Johnny Walker,
Dude, that's a different dude, man.
he is totally weird.
Yeah.
I would love to get him.
But
in
good
studio.
weird.
Yeah,
Awesome
no, not
weird.
bad.
Yeah.
Not like drop your pants at the bus stop weird. More like tells weird stories, but they're kind of funny at the party kind of weird. Yeah, that was a tremendous win. I have a great respect for Justin Ledet. I think that he has a great jab. He has one of the best jabs in the light heavyweight division. And that was, I won't call that a fluky win. I don't know how many times you could replicate that over time, but still, dude, he's powerful. He's athletic. He fights without fear, and he's fun. Favorite moment from the card got to be Jose Aldo jumping into the cage, into the crowd. Got to be.
That was cool for sure. Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. I really liked seeing Thiago Alves dig deep, and he's had a few losses. It kind of it was in his home city. It just felt nice watching him. And the decision, I thought, for example, Griffin won. I didn't think Thiago Alves won, but regardless of the decision, it was a competitive fight, a fun fight, and it's nice seeing a veteran, man. Dude, he's been around since 2005.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, he's been fighting in the UFC since 2005. His first UFC pay-per-view was like UFC 56 or something like that.
Your kid was born when Thiago Alves joined.
Dude, I was in middle school. I think I was in 7th grade.
Hold on. Think about it. If your kid was born when Thiago Alves went to the UFC, he'd be a freshman in high school now.
That's pretty crazy.
That is wild.
That is insane.
And he's out here. He's not fighting bums either. Max Griffin is a very good fighter.
I mean, Max Griffin beat Mike Perry not so long ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude. He's no slouch. So
exactly.
I agree that the decision was a little bit off, but okay.
There was a few that
it was competitive,
Yeah, for sure. All right. This was an interesting question.
All right.
Let's see it.
Is it about diarrhea?
Diego from Brooklyn, New York. I am furious. The ESPN Plus style of doing an entire main event card in about an hour and a half it's too fast. Okay, I don't have a lot going on in my life. We're done at 10:30. What am I supposed to do with my night now? I have no one to call or hang out with. I just
go meet girls.
Sports to keep me busy. What should I do with the rest of my night now that they're done at a reasonable hour? Bye.
All right. First of all, Diego, you're absolutely crazy. The ESPN timing was amazing.
Dude, was that not?
Dude,
I didn't. You know,
so nice.
I'm being dead serious about this. I didn't realize how bad it was. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
my thing just collapsed here. I didn't realize. I didn't realize how much it was taking out of me. I was literally watching those FS1 cards, resentful of the sport. Like, I cannot believe I have wasted my stupid life doing this. And now I feel like, oh my God, like, what do you want to do? Go to the bar, read a book, do some sit-ups, learn how to cook, go to Great Courses Plus. I don't know, sit there and
Play
meditate,
FIFA,
play FIFA, go to bed early.
You got so many options,
Bro,
man.
you got so many things
options.
you can do with your life now,
He
man.
lives in Brooklyn. Go get some food, man. There's great food in Brooklyn.
Go get some comida, whatever you got to do, man. To me, I was sitting there watching and being like, I had no idea what I was missing. I had no idea it felt so much better. It was, dude, that FS1 cards, the way they were doing it, was such a tax on our lives.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Especially for the media, too, because, you know, the fans watch the fights, and when they're over, right?
Yeah.
Like, the media has to stick around for the press conference, right, if they're working that night. That night, I was watching the fights. I was tweeting them live, but I wasn't necessarily working. So after I was done with the fights, I was done.
Yeah.
And, man, it was awesome. I went to celebrate my friend's birthday.
I saw your Instagram story.
Yeah. Shout out to Constanza Gallardo. It's her birthday on Tuesday, so we went out to celebrate. And I can't believe all the things that I did on Saturday. Because, like, we start at, what, like 6 p.m. usually with the FS1 cards, so it takes up your entire day.
Yeah.
You know?
And look, I'm sure some are going to go late, and the pay-per-views are still going to be what they are. But this is the best part about it. Before, they had to make every card work for FS1's schedule.
Yeah.
And so you were having cards in Argentina or in Chile or in Brazil that were ending at 3 or 4 local time in the morning, something absurd. Now they get to put it back when you're streaming. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Folks are going to catch it live. They're going to catch it after the fact. Sorry, my microphone's having some issues here. So you can have it end at a reasonable hour in Brazil and not have to worry about it anymore because you're just streaming. One of the benefits of streaming. On the other hand, one of the downsides is I'm not sure how many people saw it. That was the only part that kind of concerned me.
Yeah. When the fight card actually rolled in, I was like looking at the main card. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually a pretty good card. Like, this is a solid card. And yeah, but for some reason it didn't feel like a big event. I wonder if maybe if they would have switched the co-main and main, if like Jose Aldo was like featured as the main guy. I wonder if that would have changed anything around, because he is a former champ. Pay-per-view, you know, he's done so many pay-per-views as well.
I can't claim to have watched ESPN on Sunday, so I don't know if they covered it at SportsCenter. I don't know what they did, but everything just felt so Super Bowl heavy on Sunday that it kind of drowned it out a little bit.
That's true. Which was also a big weekend for sports.
So, you know what I mean? It's like, we'll have to see how it goes. But by the way, I didn't realize this. Do y'all call the Super Bowl Supertazón?
El Supertazón. I believe that's more in Mexico. Football is actually really big in Mexico.
Yeah, for folks who may not know, it's like literal Super Bowl, like a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
Supertazón.
Yeah,
that's funny. Okay, what's next?
All right. Let's talk about some matchmaking. Let's talk about that co-main event.
All right.
Hey, Luke. This is Jack from New York. So I kind of have a general comment about Aldo Moicano. I believe that match was terrible matchmaking by the UFC. It was a losing situation for them. If Aldo wins, which he did obviously, you kind of hinder Moicano's trajectory and kill off one of the brightest young stars in Brazil. If Moicano won, he becomes vilified in Brazil for being Brazil's favorite star and becomes disliked by the Brazilian population, which is supposed to be the next heir to. You want a young star to get a huge pop in his home country, and Moicano got absolutely no pop. I feel like that hinders his ability to become popular in Brazil, and it's very, a very short-sighted kind of idea on what they did. All right, let me know what you think about that. Bye.
Do you agree?
Okay, here's what's interesting about that. I know on our site, I know for a fact our videographer, Casey, didn't like the matchmaking. He knows a lot about the sport. I'm not sure if Jed liked it. Or disliked it. I cannot remember.
Jed dislikes everything.
I know. He truly is the world's angriest man. He just needs a trash can and a green body paint, and he is Oscar the Grouch for sure. But they had, in fairness to both of them, they had raised what this guy's raising, some pretty legitimate objections. Here's the thing about it. You heard Ricardo talking about it. Brazil is up against a challenge because the class that Ricardo came from, the Vitors. And Ricardo Almeida got out of MMA in 2011, but you know, he was the ADCC medalist, and he had a great career in MMA. And then you had the Murillo Bustamantes and the Aronas and the Babaloos and the Nogueira brothers and Anderson and Shogun and Ninja and all this Vanderlei and this incredible class. I mean, I remember when there was like so many good Brazilian fighters. That Brazilian top team versus shoot to box was like this big rivalry. And
one time at some point in time we had like 6 UFC champions or something like that, like or 5 UFC Brazilian champions at the same time or something.
And
like
to the previous question that we had been raised on the tweets, they still produce an enormous amount of talent.
Yep.
But our own Guilherme Cruz had noted, one, that regional MMA has really suffered with the economic contraction and some other regulatory issues that have happened in Brazil. And 2, here's the big thing the UFC is looking for. They are looking for the next big Brazilian star, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where Borrachinha comes in, Paulo Costa. Renato Moicano was one. I think they're still looking to maybe see if he can turn that corner. Thomas Almeida for a while was maybe going to be one of those guys. And they just Johnny Walker. We'll see what happens with him. But none of these guys yet have gotten crossed into that next threshold. And you're getting these other Brazilian guys. Silva's in his 40s. Jacare is right around then. Nogueiras are out of this. Well, I think Little Knock's still in the sport.
Little Knock's still fighting.
But you get the idea. I mean, they're all aging out a little bit here. And so they're trying to find the next one. And it's just been a bit of an issue. My thought is, I hear the objections from people who didn't like it. And I can't really say they're wrong. But to me, I kind of wanted to know what Moicano was made of. Is he ready or is he not? Pretty clearly he's not. And if you're not, you're not.
I guess.
No, I said right now. I didn't say ever.
Right.
I said right now.
I mean, I do understand where this call is coming from. Not necessarily like, I feel like if Moicano would have won, because it's a gamble, right? What if Moicano would have won? Who knows what would have happened then, right? But I feel like at this point, anybody you match up Jose Aldo with at 145, it's pretty much a bad matchup because he's clearly not going to beat Max Holloway. I mean, we saw that twice. We saw that play out twice, and it played out kind of the same way, right? Both times. But he's still clearly that number 2 guy. Like, anytime you put him up, he's kind of going to be like your Joseph Benavidez in the sense of like, he might not be the champion, but he can beat every single other contender. Right. So he's not going to be fighting the champion anytime soon because he's got 2 losses. But he's going to kill every contender if you give him the chance.
Yeah, but people act like that was a given. I think after the 2 Max fights, there was a question of what he had left. Now, now, in looking back, it's like, okay, well, he couldn't beat Max, but Max is pretty good, and it looks like he's got some life left. So partly it was a fact-finding mission. If folks could tell that Jose was good and this was all unnecessary, fine. I understand people's objections. I think sometimes you got to go on a fact-finding mission, and that's what this was.
Yeah, again, not horrible, but I can definitely see the concerns. All right, let's talk about Aldo one more time.
Happy Monday. This is the Irish Mexican calling from Los Angeles, California. And my question has to do with Jose Aldo.
Pretty good job on the Rams.
His last 2 fights has looked like a beast, like his former self. Where do you see him going from here? Because essentially he's in a position similar to where Joseph Benavidez, your right favor, is that they're always right now currently the number 1 best fighter behind the champion, and that's where Aldo is right now behind Max Holloway. You see him possibly moving up to 155 because for new matchups, possibly trying to work his way to a lightweight title shot, or do you see him staying at 145? I know Conor McGregor went on Twitter and said he would love to fight in Brazil, so I was wondering if there's any possibility of Aldo versus Conor, UFC 237, Curitiba in that soccer stadium. So that's my question. Much love. Have a wonderful week. Take care.
Can I tell you, I'm just not, I don't hate it or anything, but like this thing where like, oh, an event ends and Conor just gives his thoughts on it and like I have to like react to it. It's like, to say I don't care is not true, but I don't like especially care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of fighters weigh in. I feel like I do get where it's coming from because in a sense, like Conor McGregor's he's not out there tweeting like 24/7, like hashtag UFC Fortaleza. Oh, what a great.
Yeah, he has a right to share his opinion, of course.
Yeah.
So and he might fight Jose, I guess, at some point. But
so when he tweets, it does feel like, oh shit, like, you know, maybe he's on something here.
Also, it's just like, oh, I'm like, you know, like the king has weighed in now and now we all have to pay attention. It's also like, well, it's just his opinion, unless we should all move on with our day. We overemphasize, I think, the importance of it to a degree. That being said, what do we attribute this to with Aldo? Okay, a couple of things. Number one, the 3-round fights I think is an important part.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have to conserve his energy. I think he was conserving his energy a bit in those 5-round fights. I think also he got a bit content. I'll be honest with you. I think he got a little content to just win rounds and go about things. He knows the end is.
I felt that way when he was fighting Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, and when he fought Chan Sung Jung, I just didn't really feel any urgency from him.
He did get the finish though.
Sort of. It was a bit of an yes, he did. I mean, there was
some injury involved there.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, so it's the 3-round fights. Number one, here's the thing. He's still fighting very good fighters in Jeremy Stevens, and now
fighting the top. Yeah.
But it's a step down from the super championship caliber. So I'm not going to say it's easy competition. What I'm going to say is relative to the Max Holloways or Conor McGregor on that run he was on, it is a step down from that. Okay. So there's that. But also, dude, he's fighting with aggression, man. Like those body shots he's landing, you saw the thing.
WEC Aldo, man.
It's not accidental, dude. And he's gotten good at it and he's just putting stuff behind it. So the thing is, it's like, I'm so glad this is happening because during that whole Conor McGregor chapter, I'm not saying Conor did this because I think in his mind he knew how good Jose was, but the trash talk, which I get, was part of the pre-fight. I don't begrudge him that. But some fans got convinced that, like, oh, Jose was never fought anybody or wasn't that good. Dude, he's literally one of the best fighters ever.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're finally getting a chance to see that. Maybe he's passed it to the point where he can't beat Max Holloway. Okay. But, bro, he will put the wood to other guys in this weight class, and you're seeing it now.
Dude, he's stopping Moicano, who's a legit contender, man. Like, he's up there.
Moicano was beating Ortega through the 3rd round before he made a catastrophic error, but he was giving Ortega the business.
Yeah, he was. But yeah, like back to the question, 155 Aldo, dude, I'm all about it.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like this has to happen. At 145, and like I saw a lot of people, like a lot of my coworkers were saying, like, oh, I'd love to see the Ortega fight, and a few other featherweights were mentioned. But I don't know. Maybe it's me, but for some reason, Aldo at featherweight, like, sure, I'm always down to see an Aldo fight, but if he's gonna beat like all these top contenders, and I already know that there's no end to that because I don't see him getting another fight with Max Holloway, and I already saw that twice. Like, I don't know. It doesn't excite me that much. I feel like at 155, there's so many good options. Like, if he moves to 155, almost every single fight that he'll be in, it would almost feel like a super fight.
I'll say this. I would love to see him at 155. I wouldn't mind seeing the Ortega fight, but I don't want to see it right now because after the loss to Holloway, I still think Ortega is a future champion.
Yeah.
And I think he needs a rebuilding fight. Jose Aldo ain't the rebuilding fight.
Yeah.
He is still way too good. And I'm not saying Ortega can't win, just saying I don't think it's the right fight.
Yeah.
So that's where I come down. So I will split the difference with you there.
Yeah, I agree. But look, Aldo Nate Diaz, Aldo Connor, Aldo Gagey, Aldo Poirier, Aldo Pettis. Oh, and Pettis is about that too. He actually posted an article that we wrote on his story.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So there's tons of good options left for him.
Dude, yeah. Hashtag Aldo.
And I'm so glad that one of the game's best. We'll see how the rest of the year goes, but it appears to be ending on a high note. Love that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a nice story, right? Because like we always see like these legends drop off after they lose their title. Not Jose Aldo,
dude,
man.
He's still out there. He lost that McGregor fight in the worst way possible. Literally the worst way possible.
Same thing with the Max Holloway fights.
Okay, but
right. It wasn't like a 13-second.
13 seconds is
for sure.
So bad that his stock plummeted.
Yeah.
And I think now you're beginning to see, wait a second, this is why Aldo is Aldo.
Yeah.
Why Sean Al-Shadi wrote that piece on him that served as a curse.
Yeah. The night we fought Aldo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing piece. By the way, man, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Did you ever feel satisfied with that finish with the Conor Aldo? I don't know. I didn't. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Conor, but
dude, Conor, you can love Conor and you can hate Conor. He won that one clean.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he threw the punch. He knocked him out.
Yeah.
Nobody does that to Aldo. Yeah. Nobody. But I feel like if they fought again, I don't know, we'd get a really fun fight.
Oh, you mean what I want to see it again?
Yeah.
1,000%. Especially at 155.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
That'd be fun. All right, now let's talk about bantamweight. I guess some things cleared up, maybe? I don't know.
Hey, Luke and Danny, this is Clinton from Phoenix. Last night's fights were pretty freaking awesome. I just wanted to know, the UFC completely mishandled the whole lightweight situation after McGregor took his second title. And we all want to see the rematch between Cejudo and TJ. But man, Marlon Moraes just came out and earned a title shot. Did he not? I mean, he finished Assuncao, something nobody's ever done before, and he did it in the first round looking like a monster. He deserves that title shot against TJ. How does the UFC handle this situation where they need to do this rematch because of the quote-unquote early stoppage, and now with a legit number one contender that's got the hype train behind him? Thanks, guys, and looking forward to hearing from you on the show.
I don't need to see the rematch.
I don't. I mean, maybe I do, but not now. At some point.
Look, don't get me wrong. Oh, would it be good? It'd be good. Would it be interesting at 135? Sure. Would it be different at 135? It very well could be. I am much more interested in TJ Dillashaw fighting Marlon Moraes. Dude, Marlon Moraes, I was sitting there watching that fight. I was like, how is this guy not more highly regarded? I mean, the insiders regard him very highly, obviously. I'm watching him like, dude, he is built like a freaking Greek god. He's got ridiculous hand speed. His footwork is crisp. His boxing is nice. He has good finishing instincts, good power. Dude, he submitted Raphael Assuncao with an arm in guillotine choke from Mount. Are you kidding me?
He's super legit.
Dude, he's so good. He's so good. Like, that's the fight I want to see. Because I think the world of TJ Dillashaw too. Put them two donks together. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Plus, I don't know. I don't feel like you feel the same way, but I really enjoyed the Cejudo Dillashaw rivalry. I think, for some people maybe it was a little cheesy, the whole snake thing, but I don't know. I liked it. And I think that's a rivalry that you should let cook. So let TJ Dillashaw defend his belt, let Cejudo defend his belt, and then they'll meet at some point, maybe next year or late this year. But yeah, let's go back to the number one contenders fighting the champions. That's the way it needs to be. So yeah, I'm all about it.
All
right. Now let's talk about Johnny Walker. This is a two-part question. We just addressed the second part, but I guess we'll address only the first part.
Okay.
Hey guys, it's Morgan from Arizona. Just finished watching the UFC fights, and all I can say is wow. Awesome pace of the whole event. Everything went real well. All the fights were great. Awesome time on ESPN Plus. Never had any issues. I don't know if you guys did or not.
I did.
Just want to get your thoughts on a few things. First off, Johnny Walker. I mean, wow. What do you do next with that guy? Do you put him up against Glover Teixeira or Krylov? Or, what do you do next with him? And then Marlon, does he get the shot against TJ? Or is he going to have to sit around and wait until the whole fight with Cejudo comes around again? What do you do? Big fan of the show. Hope you answer my questions. Thanks. Have a good day.
I'll start with the second one first. I think Marlon deserves a title shot, just to reiterate that. Johnny Walker, should fight a wrestler. So he fought, who is the striker? The gentleman, the African-American guy.
Khalil
Roundtree. And he won that one standing. This one, again, Justin Ledet, I would say much more of a stand-up threat. I would like to see some of his skills tested. I'm not saying he has to fight a guy who only wrestles him, but maybe a guy who can mix it up a little bit more. He has been very interesting to note. But before we get the hype train moving, let's test the skills a little bit, see where he really is. That's what I would say.
Same, let's not rush him to the title. Let's not, do anything crazy here. Plus, I want to see more of Johnny Walker. What does he really have? I want to see him on the ground. I want to see him in a second round. So yeah, I agree. Put him with someone, obviously a bit of a step up, somebody up there in the rankings, maybe a top 15. But keep him away for the title first.
You know who I want to see him face? Another maniac in Ion Kutelaba.
Okay, that guy can wrestle.
He's not a wrestler, but you're right.
He's strong and he'll tie up.
And
with
he's
you
aggressive and he's a maniac. Yeah. I'd like to see those two lock horns. I think that would be kind of interesting.
That'd be fun. Yeah, it's a good matchup. All right. This is a bit of a crazy question, so I'm
a crazy guy, Danny Segura.
All right, let's see it.
Hey, Luke, it's Ben from College Station, home to the Agrarian School of Texas A&M University. My question is, in honor of the Bellator Heavyweight Championship wrapping up finally, who would be the favorite in a four-man tournament between TRT Vitor Belfort, Horsemeat Alistair Overeem, Pride Fedor, or Sea-Level Cain Velasquez? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Now, what's the seeding of the tourney?
Let's say
in the order he listed it.
Well, he just made a list. I
Yeah,
guess
but I'm
he
saying
didn't
the
bring
first
out
two,
any
then the
brackets.
second two.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so then
Let's just say it's randomized. Randomized, like we don't know the brackets. It's gonna get randomized.
Okay,
You got to put your money on.
I'll do it the way he said it. You can change it up if you want. But the way he said it was TRT Vitor versus Horsemeat Overeem. I'm going to go Horsemeat Overeem. Then you've got Pride Fedor, and then C-Level Kane. I'm going to go C-Level Kane, and then I have Kane winning the whole. I have Kane winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because that Horsemeat Overeem, when he was gigantic, he was built for kickboxing back then.
Yeah.
He wasn't really built for MMA. Because remember, kickboxing is like, he was doing like 3-minute rounds basically.
Of course, yeah, very different.
And he was just explode on people, and he was just butchering them.
Yeah.
Again, the microphone here is having issues. So that's where I would go. What about you?
Dude, I'm gonna go with Horsemeat Overeem.
Wow, really?
Yeah, dude, he was so big. All those knees. Dude, those knees would drop I remember when he fought Brock Lesnar, it was like, oh shit. Like he did that to Brock Lesnar. Like,
yeah. Do you remember
like he tied him up? I think he had like 2 underhooks, right? And he was driving him back. Like one thing is like out techniquing, I guess, like Brock Lesnar, and other things like out muscling him. But I do agree with you in the sense like it'll be an interesting matchup because CeeLo King can fight for years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
By the way,
I'd go with Overeem.
Before anybody gets offended,
This is all a joke.
We're just having fun,
Yeah.
everybody. Everyone's very sensitive in MMA. We're just having fun. Here's the thing. I remember when Michael Schiavello, shouts to Michael Schiavello, he would be like, I can't do his accent, but Overeem's back is so big, you could screen a movie on it. And I'd be like, yes, you can, Michael Schiavello.
Projector.
Yes, you can. I was, as much as you can be a heterosexual male, I was in love with Overeem at that time. It really was.
All right, so we got a few more questions. We're kind of running short on time.
Right.
So you want to talk about Bader's performance
Yeah,
or Adesanya? He's got a big.
Let's do Bader. We should give him some props on this. We haven't had a chance
for
yet.
sure.
I was
All right.
out last week.
Keep in mind this is from last week, so
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What's going on, Luke and Danny? This is Dylan from New Jersey. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Ryan Bader's performance on Saturday night and where he stacks up against all heavyweights and light heavyweights in today's MMA landscape, where he stacks up against the likes of DC, John Jones, Gustafsson, Anthony Smith. Where do you think he ranks pound for pound between those two weight classes? Thanks a lot.
I did a video on this on my personal YouTube channel. I'll just reiterate the short version of it here. I was so dismayed to see people being like, dude, attorney just showed us that Bader sucks and he didn't beat anybody. It's like, well, look, I don't know if he could go and beat John Jones again. Probably not. And I don't know that I would necessarily like his chances against Daniel Cormier, but I would like to see the fight. Certainly would be interesting.
very competitive, I think.
Very competitive, and you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Here's what I would say, though. In the UFC, when you're fighting the top guys all the time, and especially when you're coming from wrestling and you're learning the game, it's hard to really show how good you are. It's very, very difficult unless you are John Jones and you're so much better than everybody else that you can just reign over them like you're king and they're peasants. It's just, that's the only circumstance. What it shows you is one of the better, if not one of the top light heavyweights of this era. Not the very, very best. He couldn't beat Rumble and he couldn't beat Jones. And again, who knows how things would have gone against Cormier. I would have favored Cormier. But the point being is a guy well below that is still very good. Dude, they literally didn't lay a glove on him. He didn't take a single strike through 3 fights. It's absurd. The lesson there is not that the tournament wasn't tough or that Bader's not that good. It's that one of the better light heavyweights of this generation can go through another tournament, not have a glove laid on him, and show you just how good he is. That's a better way, or well, I should say not a better way. That's at least one way to fully appreciate how good Ryan Bader is. I was very impressed.
Yeah. Plus, like, it's not only the Fedor win because I know people say like, oh, Fedor's not the same, but he beat Matt Mitrione, who's probably the best. He's in his best career moment, I would say. And then he beat King Mo.
10-8.
Yeah. And then he beat King Mo, who's legit.
In 15 seconds.
Yeah. King Mo also is a successful heavyweight. Like, he's beaten Czech Congo.
I know.
He's beaten like some solid heavyweights too.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe some of the reaction.
So yeah, it's definitely not, the champ thing. It's nice to have. I would rank, back to this question, I would rank Bader like easily a top 5 heavyweight in the UFC, easily a top 3 at light heavyweight.
Maybe, yeah. With the absence of Rumble, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, and that if he's just fighting Jones and Cormier, well, maybe he gets smoked and you don't really, oh, Bader sucks. Dude, you got to take him out of that environment and put him in a new one, and then you're like, holy crap, that guy's
you're
good.
Comparing him against like two of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, all-time greats.
Exactly. Which is a tough spot to be in, and it kind of sucks because, Ryan Bader's a super skilled guy, man. He's one of the best light heavyweights out there.
All right, let's do one more, then I have to go.
All right, let's talk Adesanya then. He's got a big weekend. Yep.
What's going on, guys? It's Trevor from Toronto. I was just wondering where you guys think a win at UFC 234 will put Israel, because he's not fighting a top contender in the division, but it still seems that he's being built up for a title shot even as soon as his next fight. Obviously, should he win on Saturday? He has that co-main event spot. I just wonder, does he need another fight after this? Does he need to fight a guy, in that top 5 above him? Or is this
all right? I get the gist of the question. It's a good question. The answer is very simple. It's a title shot. They are dying to give this guy a title shot. And you're right. Oh, beating Anderson Silva, what does that do for you? Nothing. In terms of realistically showing us how ready you were. Doesn't matter. Big name, big opportunity. It's co-main event for a reason. Short of something miraculous or strange happening, that guy is going to get the winner of the main event, period.
I don't know about strange and I don't know about miraculous, but sure. He'll get a title shot if he gets a W. Am I the only one that's thinking this fight's going to be like somewhat competitive?
Look, I'm done making predictions. It's just they're too hard. So in MMA, almost nothing surprises me. My rational brain tells me it won't be competitive, but that could be because I'm not taking into account enough variables. So I guess we'll have to see. My hunch is no, but I can't say with any certainty.
Are you excited for that fight?
Yeah, I am. I want to see what it looks like.
Okay.
I am, because look, if it is competitive, then we have to figure out what that means, right? So
right.
So yeah,
Dude,
sure.
I think it will. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe we'll find out.
Are you picking Silva?
Should I go on record?
Yeah.
No, I think Adesanya is going to win.
All right.
But if Silva wins, I wouldn't be surprised. Kind of like the same thing with Cyborg Amanda Nunes. I thought Chris Cyborg was more likely was going to win, but if you would have told me hey, Amanda Nunes is going to knock out Chris Cyborg, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely possible. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
With Silva, is I still think he's a top 15 middleweight. I think Adesanya's above that. I consider him, right now a top 10, maybe even top 5. So I do think he'll get the victory, but I think it'll be competitive. I don't think, because people have this perception that Silva's washed up. I really don't think so, man.
All right.
I don't think he's in his prime, but he's far from washed up.
Let me ask you a question before we get to this next interview. See if you're interested in doing this. Remember how I talked about the show Hot Ones on The Beat?
Yeah.
Have you gone back and seen it?
Actually, I haven't, man.
Okay. Well,
but I will.
This is what I'm surrounded by people.
But I know what you're talking about. I've seen the clips. I've seen the
Danny Due Diligence Segura over there. All right, here's the deal. It's the host and then the guest, and they eat 10 wings. They start mild, they get insanely hot. Now, if you did it a bunch of times, it would be stealing. If we did it one time on the show, it'd be homage. Would you want to do an MMA hour homage to Hot Ones where we both interviewed each other, ate mild wings, and then worked to super hot ones? Would you want to do it?
I mean, I'm bad with spicy stuff, but I'll give it a shot. Why not?
Would you give it a shot?
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about 2 million Scoville level. You do it? Bro, the internet demands your compliance. Are you going to be?
I'll do it. If enough people on Twitter want me to do it, I'll do it.
All right, if you want to see me and Danny do it, let us know on Twitter. If you don't want to do it. But I think it'd be kind of fun. We got to spice things up around here. No pun intended, my friend. And I would like to try that. I would like to put it on camera. I'll take the day off after this so I don't have to go to my next job. And we just ruin our day with incredibly spicy food.
Maybe we can have sound off with wings.
Yeah, but we have to get through all 10.
We'll try.
No. Yoda, there is no try. Either do or do not.
All right, we'll cross that bridge.
How about this? Let's plan something. We'll come up with a plan and we'll float it to the audience. Would you be interested in forming a plan?
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll just throw acid in Austin's face because he's stupid. Okay. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it. Good job today.
All right, man.
There he goes, Danny Segura. We are not done here on the show. We have one more interview to get to. I spoke to one of the great coaches in MMA who is now a commentator for ESPN. He's doing cornerman commentary and then a little bit more. It's Trevor Wittman. He did a phenomenal job on the UFC's debut on ESPN. So I wanted to talk to him about it. Here's our conversation. And I am joined now by coach and now commentator Trevor Wittman. Trevor, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for making some time for us. Let's actually jump right into it. I have to say, what a pleasant surprise that was when we saw you at the UFC and ESPN Plus event as this sort of, how would you define your role, right? Because on the one hand, you're discussing what's happening in the corners, but you were also talking about some of the action in the cage for the fights itself. So you're commentator, but what is your specific role?
I don't know. They had called me about a week prior and said, hey, we have this idea of, calling how the corners work. And that's a lot like how Fox was, that ESPN is not going to be showing the corners, but pay-per-view does. So they asked if I can come and be a part of the ESPN events and do this position that they didn't know how it was going to work. So I showed up and they put makeup on me, and I realized if they put makeup on me, I might be going on camera. And then they tested that out in the beginning and kind of ran with it. And they would just ask me here and there, do you want to jump in? And I think we're just kind of swinging from the hip at the moment.
Well, I got to say, if you're swinging from the hip, it's looking pretty good. So there was like no formal tryout for this or anything?
No.
Wow. That's so unusual in television. I'm sure you know that. Like, just to get your dry run as the live version of it, that's highly unusual. Why do you think that is, that they do it this way?
I think they had told me that they might go on, it might not. So I think they tested it on the ESPN Plus, the prelims, the early prelims. So, I guess it was going well because they kept me on every part. So
now, have they discussed since then what their plan is?
Yeah, at first they wanted me to do every one, and I just said, "Hey, man, I'm super busy with Onyx and with my athletes, and I don't want to take on too much." And they wanted me to see if I could do every one, and I just told them I'm not going internationally at the moment. I can't. And so they scheduled me for 5 of them, and then we'll decide how much further we go from that point.
Well, I guess congratulations are in order. This is sort of like a surprise out of nowhere. I'm guessing you're pretty happy about it. Is getting into television, was that something you had eyed at some point in your future?
No, this is a complete surprise to me. I've never done any commentating or anything like that. When I had read the message, I actually didn't want to do it because commentating is not something I've ever wanted to do. But once I called Zach, and Zach told me, it was from a coach's perspective, they wanted, especially from the corners. I was intrigued to do it just because I think there needs to be more of that. But then again, here I'm supposed to come out and critique and talk how the corner's going. And, who am I to critique anybody on the sense that, I've done thousands of corners, but I would say not all of them have been superb. So it's one of those things going into this. I'm very humbled for them to ask me, and it's hard for me because I have such a good relationship with all the coaches out there. So, going out there and speaking the truth is what I'm going to do and always do. And just hopefully from the perspective of how the coaches and, the guys in my network who we share the same job understand that, where I'm at the moment is because of the many mistakes I made and gained through it. So I actually wish there was someone critiquing me back in the day because that's what it takes. It takes tons of critique, and I never want to call it criticism because criticism to me is a negative sense to it, but critiquing it and going back and saying, what can I do better in each fight as a coach, I think would be super beneficial to me. And I've always thought that way. I've always been my hardest critic. So, I've made some huge fails in the game. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, I remember when I forgot Bruno Phillips' mouthpiece in a title fight in boxing. And I had no idea. I didn't even put the mouthpiece in. He came back and was like, damn, T. And he sits down, and I'm like, look at that. I'm like, what? And he's like, you forgot my damn mouthpiece. And I'm like, I did? And I touched my pocket. My mouthpiece was in there. And I have not forgot the mouthpiece since. And that was probably 2003. And it takes scenarios like that where, it's just like the athlete. Athletes, it's all about performance, and you gain from your performance. And sometimes you don't perform. It really helps you out. And, having that performance where, I really dug into myself after that fight, and it helped me never do that again. But I've got a laundry list of things that I laugh about what I've done in the corner before. So it's super cool to be able to get out there and do that. But again, it's never a position I want to take to ever go out there and critique people who I learn from, you know.
What would you say about the state of MMA cornering? I think you would agree, probably. I don't want to put words in your mouth, certainly, but for the time I've been observing the sport, the last decade and more, it's certainly gotten a lot better. But one of the things I've really noticed is a lot of U's don't exist. And by that I mean, number one, people who've done cornering in other similar combat sports, which is, and they have, in those other sports like boxing, long histories of cornering. And two, it's a lot of really young people. It's a lot of teammates who might also be active fighters cornering. You're seeing a little bit less of that now. You're seeing some generational shift. To me, that's made cornering a little bit better. Still a long way to go. What is your assessment of the state of MMA cornering?
Oh, yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, I come from the boxing world, and the boxing world is, you have a couple other people in your corner, but one time I had to get on Miguel Diaz, who was a cut man and a very well-known cut man. And I was cornering Manuel Lopez, and he started telling him what to do, and I had to jump on him. And I feel like doing the boxing cornering, it was really just you doing the instruction. And at least it was for me. I didn't have a big team, and a lot of times the boxing coach works with the boxer all the time, so that's who you're listening to. I know when I got into MMA, there was a lot of other coaches that you're working with, and that's why I felt like a big stick got put in the wheel, where it was very easy to have so many people telling you the right thing, and everybody could be saying the right thing, but it's so much information or so much going into the fighter where it makes cornering very, very, very tough. And just like you said, a lot of times it's athletes, and athletes want you to do good, but it's almost like listening to a mom yelling to her son on the wrestling mat. So you hear her saying "squeeze harder," and you're going, "All right, well, what does that mean?" It's definitely come a long way. And just being a part to really dig in and watch the corners. The night I got to do it in Brooklyn was very cool, and I thought everybody was doing a great job. I mean, there was a couple little critiques here and there, but it's super cool to see the level of coaches.
And look, there's a lot of different ways to be a good corner. So I'll ask you in this way: true or false? Not every good coach is a good corner man. Not every good corner man is necessarily a good coach. In other words, how different are those two roles? How similar are they?
You nailed it. A coach, someone who is working in the gym, there's so many good coaches. The difference between a good coach and a great coach, how I kind of put it, is a good coach can tell you what you need to do. And I can talk to people on the street who can tell your athlete what they need to do, but can you show them how to do it? Can you explain when to do it, when not to do it, how to do it, how to set it up? And most importantly, make them believe in it. And then going into the corner work, it's really the same thing. You got tons of good corners, but the difference between a great corner is someone who understands their athlete on the mental side. You got to know how to piss them off. You got to know how to cool them down. You got to know how to you got to really just understand their psyche. And you got to be able to read that from not even just from their performance, but their body language and what's going on. And, there's something going on the outside of the fight sport that's causing their performance to be there. And if you're with them all the time, you should know everything that's going on with them. I know a lot of people who coach and corner athletes that they're like their best friends. And I always say, hey, man, it's good to be a friend of an athlete. But a lot of times a good friend is going to tell you what you want to hear. But it's like being like a father. Like a father, you always want to let them know that you're proud of them, no matter what happens, because they're again, as long as they're out there doing their best effort, that's all that matters. But you got to be able to discipline them. You got to trust what they're doing on the outside. You got to know when to, really dig into them and know that they're not going to take it to heart and be like, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. It's more like that fatherly figure. I care about you, and I care about your you not getting hurt in here. And that's where that bond has to be so strong. And really I feel like that's the key to being a great coach / cornerman, vice versa, just the average good coach.
One of your most famous cornering moments was the you throwing in the towel or stopping the fight on behalf of Nate Marquardt. Obviously, he had a super decorated career, but certainly Father Time comes for us all. And when that happens, you need some people around you to make some of these very, very difficult calls. You're seeing calls like that, I think, a little bit more, Trevor. I would point to Duke Roufus after Anthony Pettis broke his hand against Tony Ferguson. I'm sure you know this too. I mean, how many times have we seen guys with broken hands go back out into a fight? And Duke Roufus said, enough, right? We're just not going to fight under these circumstances. Do you believe that corners in MMA have a problem not stopping enough fights that maybe shouldn't have continued?
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing in this sport. I mean, it's really cool to go back and people are like, oh, Trevor's the first guy to stop a fight in MMA, and that's not true. I remember when Chuck Liddell, people jumped in and stopped the fight when he was fighting Rampage and Pride. There's and it's not only just if someone's getting beat up, like Nate had a situation that I was aware of prior to going into that fight, that the doctors were very concerned with his blood pressure. His blood pressure was super, super high. And they were resat in the doctor's office, or if you're where the doctors said prior to the fight, about 2 hours before he went out, and they were very concerned with his blood pressure. And then when I had seen him performing, I was like, there's something totally wrong. So I already had an awareness to it. But it's not that you just stop a fight that someone's getting beat up. It's where are they in that fight? And does the guy have your number that night? And the cool thing about MMA is there's so many different ways that the fight can be stopped. So I feel like that's a big key to a lot of people not stopping the fight, because that fight can just change so quick. For me, it's more about the mindset of where that athlete is. And if you're taking an ass whooping and that fighter clearly doesn't want to be in there, you've got to be the one that steps up and takes the sword. You have to jump in there and make it your fault, and let the fighter go and complain that you shouldn't have stopped the fight. Because the more times that you get beat inside that cage and you're getting dominated, that hurts you mentally, and that's hard to come back from. And whether you're just taking too many punches, or does your fighter need to be in there? Do you need to jump in there and save them and get them back mentally and re-strategize on what's going on? And again, it's a lot of psyche. You got to know your fighter, and the key to all athletes is being able to ride that money train and ride that money train as long as they can. You see it with a lot of fighters. You almost see their careers completely change. And if you look at that, you've got to really pay attention to the 2 or 3 performances that changed the way they performed in the cage, where you see guys that look invincible, and then all of a sudden they become human. And then all of a sudden you're going, wow, are they even gatekeeper level? And it was kind of like a scenario with Nate. When I had stopped the fight with Nate, I had so many people in my ear telling me, you need to stop fighting. And I'm like, well, he had the best performances I've seen in a long time in the gym, and he came back to win 2 after that. So it's, again, knowing the athlete and really sticking to your guns. And again, everybody's going to have something to say. How do you have to stick to your gut feeling of what's going on, and just pay attention to everything. Everything has factors. It's how are they performing in the gym? How are they mentally? Do they have too many things going on the outside that's causing them to be distracted? And that's where the cornerman / coach comes in and has to assess that. You are the co-pilot. And you have to put yourself in the scenario. I'm a co-pilot, but I'm on the outside. I'm not driving in the car with someone that if I make a wrong move, we're both rolling. It's like you've got to really understand. I'm not taking no damage, but you have to care for them and be willing to take some damage if you go out there and make a decision like that. And again, it's that fatherly love, almost parent-like love, but also just truth and honesty that they're getting to the goals they want to get to, if that makes sense.
You know, boxing stoppages seem to come from the corner anyway a little bit more easily, and one of the reasons people point to, well, there's several reasons, right? A lot of times those guys have guaranteed pay, so they don't have to worry about going out to see a show or win, so that's a big one. Again, we talked about it before, you might have somebody who's been cornering for 40 years, quite literally, and so they've sort of seen it all. But the other one is that in MMA, we hold on to this idea, well, I mean, even in jiu-jitsu, they don't have tech falls. We just saw a girl go up 91-0 in an IBJJF tournament because there's always this idea that maybe you could pull it around. MMA is so varied that you can always sneak out a victory, and I know we can all think of some times where that's true, but I got to tell you, Trevor, I think it's way overstated, and I think that's probably, and I want to see what you think about this, to me, it's combating that. You don't want to tell a fighter you never have a chance, but on some level, you got to live in reality, and you got to weigh the costs and the benefits, and it seems like that's the more difficult challenge we're up against. I wonder what you make of that assessment.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, it's you nailed it. It's a longevity. Again, one performance is not your career, and yes, you got to be the best you can every day, but sometimes you got to really assess the performance and what's going on. And again, that goes to the outside. Professional fighting and prize fighting, you take damage over the years, but again, can you cope with it and can you rebound? And again, that comes a lot from the outside. There's lots of things that fighters go through, whether it's too much stardom, do they get distracted, do they not train enough, where they have a family issue going on, and again, a lot of times it's going to cause a performance issue. I mean, just put it this way, you remember when Chael fought Anderson Silva, and Chael beat Anderson Silva for 5 rounds, but Anderson came back to win the fight. That's one of those fights that kind of stand out to me, where he found a way to win. He was the champion, but that was the downfall of his legacy. I mean, if you look at the next time, he fought Chael again and dominated him, but then those performances right afterwards, you start to question your performances by your performance. And if he was doing everything possible, he's like, holy cow, I got held down for so long. Yes, I came back to win that fight, but he was the one that was in there. He's the one that deals with the soreness and what's going on, where he was somewhat invincible. And those type of fights make you question everything, especially the older you become. What comes with age is wisdom. You see young guys that are just reckless and can do it and don't get bothered by tough fights. But as time goes on, man, the tough fights, they wear on you.
What's an example of somebody, maybe from boxing again, or if it's MMA, let me know. But is there ever an example of just like really solid cornering, either stopping a beating from continuing, or energizing a fighder to reach their maximum potential? Is there any moment you could think of in a corner that was just incredibly pivotal and just really good work?
Teddy Atlas, I forget his name. I'm having a brain fart, but it was a few years ago. I had a great performance. He said, you got to go in the fire like a firefighter. I mean,
Timothy Bradley.
Motivational speech. Yeah, Timothy Bradley. What a great job by the corner. And, I always respected Teddy Atlas as a cornerman, and he made a great commentator. I actually learned a lot about coaching by listening to Teddy and the things and the philosophies he had to say. But that was a great corner just by seeing he's more of a full-time commentator / part-time coach. And it just shows, his philosophy by, it's how do you create energy? How do you create more energy? I mean, he was winning that fight, but he knew that there was momentum, and he was able to build that momentum into a fireball. And that's what a corner's there to do, is how do you create more momentum or shift the momentum? And that's always tough to do, is have a shift. How do you get into someone's head and make them believe that they can still win the fight? And that's again, that just takes time, experience, and again, philosophy, understanding how the mind works, and then understanding how your athlete works. I'll tell you what, cornering now, when I have 3 athletes compared to when I had a team at Grudge that 40 professional athletes, it's night and day different. When I was having too many athletes, there was a lot of things that I did, and I failed as a cornerman, as I failed as a coach. For instance, I had a guy named Alvin Robinson fighting, and I did an interview, and they asked me about Alvin Robinson's opponent, and I'm like, I was like, no, I don't think that's his opponent. And I mixed his opponent up with Justin Salas' opponent, and they're both 155 at the time. And that's where a big flag went off, where I was wearing too many hats. I had too many athletes. Another time is when Rose lost to Carla Esparza, and I didn't even talk to her about a 5-round fight. Here she is with 3 professional fights, fighting for a world title, coming off the Ultimate Fighter, and seeing how dominant she was on the Ultimate Fighter. Even when I wasn't coaching her, I became a fan. And man, she went out there and hit this pace, and after the first round, I didn't even catch on to it. And afterwards, I seen her start to cave, and 100% was that my fault as a coach, as a co-pilot, to not catch that and not plant the seeds that I needed to plant for a fighter that only has 3 fights fight pro world title, who's so young. I still feel we should have won that fight if we would have understood the pace and understand a 5-round fight and understood the only way that Carla could have beat her. You know, it was almost like I came out as a fanboy / cheerleader. And those were part of the reasons why I gave up on Grudge and said, hey, you know, I went back to my boxing ways where I coach the athlete and I don't have too many people in there saying the right things because everybody's saying it in different philosophies. And you got too many coaches, you know, coaching you where everybody's in the right mindset. But you're going from one workout and you got 3 workouts per day and each coach is pushing you to the limit. And here you are overtraining. So there's just so many different experiences that you go through. It's just how do you audit it and make sure that it's balanced and again, all about the athlete.
And also, when you have been alluding to this the entire interview, how different your athletes are. Certainly it takes some humility on the part of the coach, but it also takes some keen awareness too. You've got Justin Gaethje, one of the most exciting, dynamic, incredible talents in the lightweight division, still highly ranked. He's going up against Edson Barboza, but I don't think it's any kind of controversial statement to say that, you know, that's a high risk, high reward kind of style that he has. Does it change the way, not so much that you corner, because that changes athlete to athlete, but I guess what I'm wondering is, as you approach that kind of fight and you're thinking about the strategy and the things he has to execute, but also the kind of fight style that he has and what requires it to succeed, does it make cornering a little more tense? Does it make it a little more for you? As they go high stakes, do you go high stakes too? How does their fight style impact you?
I mean, it's everything. You know, Justin's a guy who really doesn't fear fighting. You know, he's a guy who loves it. He lives in that fire, and he just enjoys it. Like, that's where he's himself. But again, I've got to know when to pull it back, and then also who's a puncher, who's not a puncher, and taking those. There's a certain person you can take a clean shot from, but it's going to take 2 or 3 clean shots to put you away. But sometimes you face a guy who one clean shot is going to put you away. And you know, I'm very big in the position and understanding positions, and it's just, I really focus on where do we need to position ourselves in the fight, and then also through the rounds. How do we position ourselves, and when do we start to push the gas pedal, and when do we do it right away? What do we do? And there's the strategy of understanding how to be like a general and control a battle. How would you say, a scenario? What are they thinking? What are they thinking we're going to do? And do we switch that and try to? So there's so much fun stuff that goes into, you know, game planning and getting these guys ready. And then how do I assess myself in the corner to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? And then you always have to be prepared for, if it's not going your way, what are your seeds you're going to plant? How are you going to wake them back up? How are you going to get them back into the fight? So there's so many different perspectives that you need to put into play so you're prepared for those scenarios, which I never used to do in my early years as a coach. It was like, hey, this is our game plan, and then it changes, and then instantly the fighter can read that you're going into plan B, and that's more like Mayday. Instead of like, no, this is what we're expecting, and how do you make them feel that it's okay, we're good where we're at, this is what we need to do. And to me, I feel that's the key, is how do you let your fighter know he's still in the fight, and then get them to listen to what you're saying and trust what you're saying.
Well, I got to say, I certainly appreciate this conversation. I appreciated your first run on ESPN. I look forward to many more, schedule permitting. And best of luck to you with Justin against Edson and everything else you have going on this year. Thank you for your time, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Big thanks to Trevor Wittman for stopping by. Thanks to all of our guests, Shorty Torres, Wonder Boy, and, of course, Ricardo Almeida as well. Thanks to all of you for watching. We are back next week. The train rolls on. My name is Luke Thomas. This is the MMA Hour, and until next time, stay frosty.